This is The Gorge. It's a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a topic.
The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegorge. For just $5 a month, you gain access to not one, but two podcasts. $5 gets you Takeout, a monthly commentary track where Ben and I sit around and we watch things and talk over them instead of playing them and talking about them, because sometimes that's less work. And we love it when we don't have to do as much work. And then $2 gets you That's Hell You're Walking Into, a monthly series where Ben gets to learn what the hell is going on in Yugashektra, which is like the most shonen that FGO has ever been. It owns, because it's a podcast where Ben asks me questions about Fate Stay Night and the extended like Nasuverse lore, and I do my damnedest to answer them, almost certainly under duress. Every single time without fail. Something causes me a great deal of stress trying to answer his questions. It's always a lot of fun. So, head on over to patreon.com/thegorge. Kick it out however much you want. We appreciate everyone from the smallest amount to the biggest amount. We love all of you because you're literally giving us money to talk. So any bit is wonderful. Thank you very much. If you don't have any money, tell your friends to give us money instead.
So if you get us up to $200 a month, you also let us start up as a bad game, which is a monthly stream where we play some truly god-awful video games. And on the list for next time when we hit that goal will be the Bouncer. And I really want to play the Bouncer.
I know, I really would like to play the Bouncer a lot. So we're like halfway there?
Yes.
Ish? Okay, cool. So.
Thank you to Steel Condor, Nihar Bot, Red Lantern Reviews, Holy Star 64, Neon Hellcat, Patrick Perez, Roddy 1/2, Faso Toby 27, Saturn, Alice Marks, Shia, Otzi, Magus, Aquamancer, Jack, Liam Lane, and that other one dude.
Thank you guys. We love you all.
Thank you so much.
And as you hear all the time on the Discord where I threaten all of you routinely, it's fine. Ben, you get to answer this question this week. What are we talking about?
So we're back. We made a tactical error, and bit off way more than we could chew last week. For some reason, I foolishly thought that we could get through the entirety of Great Ace Attorney Chronicles in one sitting, and we ended up doing a 3-hour podcast about only the first game.
Whoopsie doodle. That happens sometimes. We thought we could get it all in, and we couldn't. We failed. So instead, you, dear listener, get basically kind of a bonus episode this month so that we can talk about Great Ace Attorney 2, Resolve. It's good. It's probably the best game in the series.
Absolutely the best game in the series, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely the best game in the series. Even with the low, we'll talk about the singular low, but even with its low, I do still think the overall package. This is a question that came up when we talked about Tales of Berseria, right?
Right.
When we talked about Tales of Berseria, we were like, if a game is like good across the board, but then there's other things that maybe do stuff better, is that game that's good across the board the best? And we kind of settled on yes for Berseria. We were like, yeah, we think Berseria is the best. And it's the same thing here. Because I think, overall, Spirit of Justice has, like, the most consistently good cases. Like, I don't think Spirit of Justice has a bad case.
No, it does not.
I think Great Ace Attorney 2 has a weak case.
It has one weak case, but it's not the weakest case in the franchise. There are still a bunch of cases that are underneath it. Right. And so even with that, the highs of Resolve are so high that it invalidates the weakness of that one case.
Yeah, and I do think that is what tips it over. Because it's like, once you get over that hurdle, like, it's all smooth sailing from there. It's quality the whole way down. But you just got to get over that little bump. to get there. And we'll talk about that in a second, because the game does start incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Because we're just gonna get into spoilers like right off the bat. Like that was our 5-minute long no spoiler section, because I just want to talk about everything.
Because this is a sequel to the first game, and so it rightfully assumes you already know how to play an Ace Attorney game.
Oh god, isn't it the best?
And it just hits the ground running.
It's amazing.
I'm always tickled by the way Ace Attorney games handle their tutorial cases. Like, how do you get yourself along this path, right? Because by the second game, Phoenix is a practiced lawyer and knows his way around the courtroom. So what do you do in Justice for All? You give him amnesia. In Trials and Tribulations, you pick up with Mia instead, like in her early days.
Right.
Apollo Justice and Dual Destinies, you have a new whole playable character. So it's great. It's and I love it. And this one has one of the best ways.
Yes. It's the best. It is the best way, because it opens and it doesn't tell you what's going on at all. Right? You're like, "Oh, I'm playing as Susato." Okay. And she's like, "I've got to do this court thing, and I have to represent my best friend." And she's like, "But I'm not used to looking like this." And then you go, "She's dressed like a boy."
And it takes you, just because, you don't see her, because she's the player character.
Yeah.
You're talking about how, she's my best friend, and, we've known each other for years and everything. And then you meet Ray, and she talks about how, gallant and dashing you look. And you're like, huh, okay.
And then you realize that Ray doesn't recognize Susato. And then it clicks that it's like, oh, she's dressed like a very handsome boy. Okay.
It's great.
The best recurring joke in that case is that everybody thinks that Susato, or Ryutaro, is an extremely handsome young man. Ryutaro, by the way, is hilarious, because so all of the Naruhodo men, over in Japan, obviously, Phoenix's name is Ryuichi in Japanese. It's Ryuichi Naruhodo. And so Ryu means dragon. Well, Taro, I had to look it up because I'd forgotten. Taro means boy. So her name is literally just yes, I am boy.
I am dragon boy.
Do not worry. I am for sure a male in this courtroom where you are only allowed to be a male.
If we existed in the timeline where the localization, for whatever reason, still had to set the entire franchise in America,
yeah.
Which I would love to see them try to get out of cases 1-1 and 2-1 with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How to make that work? Yeah.
If they did that, Susato's name would be Guy Man.
Oh yeah, 100%. Not to worry, Your Honor. I am a man, male, very masculine, boy. I am a boy. Don't worry. Yeah, it owns. It's great. It's dog shit that's not a costume.
Oh, I know, right? As much as I love her what did you call it? Going native outfit.
Yes.
I would have loved it if she'd also gotten just the Ryutaro outfit.
It would have been great, because then it could just be both of them just looking so gallant and dashing in court. I would have loved it.
The whole bit reminded me of the Futurama episode where Leela had to dress up as a guy to get into the military.
Oh, yeah. God. But, so, the other thing I was thinking to, keep us from being here for too long is that we shouldn't try to put too much time into these first two cases, because I know we're going to talk for 800 hours about the back three.
Oh, yeah. No. Once we get to 3, 4, and 5, it's game over. So, yeah, there are still a lot of fun things about this one. It is a really good tutorial case.
It's an excellent, because they let you skip tutorial shit.
Yes! Very nice of them to do that.
I don't think they've ever done that in an Ace Attorney game. I can't recall. It's been a really long time. I've never been given the option, like, hey, do you need to be taught how to present evidence? And then you can actually go, no, I'm good. And
yeah.
Oh my god. You know.
That's great. And then this is also just like a really interesting case because it ties into 1-1 and it reminds you like, oh yeah, all of these are going to be an overarching plot. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, it's very much just like every single case in Grey's Ace Attorney is all like tied together.
Yeah, you've never had or I guess not never, but like it's very, very rare that, you know, the victim in this case is the accused of the previous game's 1-1.
It was great too, because when I was playing 1-1 for the first time, I did text you, and I was like, boy, she just gets, like, they don't tell us her motive or anything. She just gets to, like, get away with it, basically. And I was like, well, what happens to her? Because then the game, you know, first game ends, and we don't ever really get, like, a resolution with Giselle Brett. And it's like, that's weird. And then literally the game opens with Giselle Brett getting resolved real fast.
Yes. Very finally resolved.
Yeah. Really hard resolved. Thanks. But, you know, that bitch got what was
oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
We get the triumphant return of Soseki Natsume.
Oh, thank God.
And
he's still like a deranged, like, neurotic weirdo, but he's still, like, significantly happier in Japan.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. Raiten Many Memo is one of the better name puns in the franchise.
I hate this series. I hate this series so much sometimes. It's just like, as soon as they, like, sometimes with the fake, like the fake Japanese pun names, you have to still kind of sound them out. Like, Korakuta.
Kuryo Kurekata.
Yeah, thank you. His name, like, it took me a couple to be like, oh, okay. But, like, Raiten Many Menmo.
Yeah.
Raiten Many Menmo. I hate it, but I love it, too.
Oh, it's great. It's just the best.
Painful.
This Clark Kent motherfucker.
It's fun, too, because he's the one who's also, like, you know, so Natsume is being followed around by the press, and he's, like, the person who's, like, taking pictures of Natsume in the courtroom, too, which is really fun. So they made use of all of their new models. They only have a handful of new models in this game, and by God, they're gonna use them.
Which is, you know, the reason we also get Hosonaga returning with yet another disguise.
Mr. Turtle! Hosonaga, my love! He's so good!
It's kind of fun. I feel like he's underused in both these games. He
is underutilized. I agree.
He would have made a good detective character. You know, as much as as great as Sholmes is, like, obviously I wouldn't want to get rid of him, but, like, I would love to do more cases where he is the detective.
Absolutely. Oh, I didn't bring it up in the last episode, so I'm gonna bring it up here real fast. So, in 1-1, after it's over, like, Ryunosuke is thinking of, like, all the people who helped him, you know? Mm-hmm. And he goes, like, well, I guess Hosonaga didn't help that much. And all I could think was, like, Ryunosuke, he's the one who kept all the evidence that saved your ass! What are you talking about? Hosonaga just doesn't get any respect, man.
Oh, he's so disrespected, and it's funny we never find out what he's sick with.
I mean, it's obviously, like, the joke is tuberculosis, because, like, that's like your generic late 1800s, early 1900s tragic disease that's killing everyone. It's like Okita in FGO. Like, she's constantly hacking up blood, because the joke is that, you know, Okita Soji died tragically young of tuberculosis, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the gag is that she's just constantly, like, every time she wants to do something cool, she's suddenly dropping dead because she's got to hack up a bunch of blood. So I assume that's also the joke that's going on with Hosonaga, which is great. It's dark, but it's great.
It's just funny that, like, it never gets, like, followed up on. Like, it never becomes anything. He's just a guy who's sick. My man's got to retire to, like, a desert somewhere and hope that clears up all the fluid in his lungs. Yeah, like, he does his, like, undercover thing by going into the ocean with little Mr. Turtle on his head. It's like, dude, you are dying. You should probably not be in the ocean. Take a vacation. And, like not one near water. Very far away from water. Someplace more dry, maybe. But, we do get, maybe not one of the best, but certainly one of my personal favorite, like, breakdowns ever. One of the few that actually exist in Great Ace Attorney. We talked about last time, is that you have all these amazingly well-designed characters, and they just do not collapse in the way you want them to. But in this one, we do get the Ryutaro takedown, which owns. Yes! It's Rei and Susato throwing him at the same time, and I was so excited, because he's, like, freaking out, he's swinging his camera around, and Rei, like, runs over to, like, bend his arm over, and she calls for Susato, and as soon as she did, I was like, they're gonna throw him together! This is the best! And then they do, and it owns. So, that's true love, baby. Yeah. I'm glad that Susato got to throw a man physically across a courtroom with her girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Good job. That's love. And they also set you up in that opening cutscene, just like something that I got to, like, I thought she was at Mikotoba's grave. Oh yeah, because, like, they don't actually reveal that he wasn't sick at all. Yeah. Until you get to the courtroom. I mean, she, at the very end of that cutscene, she drops that it's Kazuma's instead. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, for a second there, I was like, surely not. Surely they wouldn't kill her dad off screen, right? I mean, they might. Yeah, I mean, but then you're like, but then who is gonna teach her how to do the courtroom thing? Yeah, exactly. No, he's fine. Yeah, no, he was just a big liar, man, and he tricked her. Yeah, he gets to be really shady. Why are all these, like, all the adults in this game are, like, the shadiest people on Earth? We also have to talk about the one thing that this game does, that this court case does, that is the most baffling, like, dramatic swerve you could ever imagine an Ace Attorney game taking, which is making the judge a character. They gave that man a name and legs. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to stay there. You live there. No, you live behind that bench. I'm sorry, Judge. The judge is a heroic spirit. He is a servant. Yeah. He is a ruler that gets summoned when he's needed. Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't actually have, like, an internal world or, like, an external life. He's just the judge, you know what I mean? Like, he's not supposed to have a name. But this one does. His name is Seishiro Jigoku. And it's not at all foreboding whatsoever that his last name is Buddhist hell. Yeah, nope. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it one bit. I was sitting there, like, staring at his name, and I'm like, Jigoku, where have I heard that word before? And I had to Google it, and I'm like, oh, that's hell. Okay. It is also funny that, like, you know, it's Mikotoba's like, yeah, I had to call in Judge Jigoku to take the case because there was no way anyone would actually be fooled into thinking that you are not a girl. and then it turns out that Ouchie was certainly fooled. Ouchie and Many Menmo were both completely fooled. It was great. Oh! We didn't even talk about Ouchie cutting off his little top knot of hope in, like, the most dramatic scene in the world. It was beautiful. I love the hard cut
Sister Sato with, like, her hands folded in prayer, like, rest in peace, little top knot. He honorably took away what was left of his samurai hair. So sad. They broke that man's spirit.
Now the only thing left for him to do is to become a wandering Ronin and end up in America where he can meet the love of his life, Monin Pain.
He loves her so much he'll take her last name instead and tell his son, never forget we've sworn a blood feud against the Naruhodo family.
He would have to take her last name because he would give up his own name. He would abandon his name as a wandering Ronin.
Absolutely. That's so true. You're right. When he met his wife in America, he only called himself Taketsuchi. He didn't have a last name.
You see, now I want a game set in, like, the 50s with Robin Wright.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, my God. And a new Pain.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, if any. Oh, please. That'd be so good.
We need to JoJo this and just, like, do a new game every generation.
New game. Same Pain. Just constantly stalking the Naruhodo, eventually becoming the Wright family.
Yeah.
Oh, God, stalking. I love it, too, because it means at some point... So this means that, like, the Ouchie to Pain family, right? Mm-hmm. They never gave up being lawyers. They're
no.
Like, we're gonna carry this flame forever. We are going to hold this grudge. And then meanwhile, Naruhodo's, like, great, however many grandson is like, I'm going to art school.
Yeah, he broke the chain.
Fate brought them back together. Oh, God.
Oh, I love it. I love the idea of Winston and Phoenix, like, continuing this blood feud that neither of them know exists.
Is aware of, yeah.
It's like I told you, I think, like, a while ago before like when he first found out about, like, Great Ace Attorney, like, as a franchise, I was like, could you imagine the in-universe dollop episode about the Naruhodo lineage?
Yes. I think all the time about the fact that, like, Phoenix Wright in the universe absolutely has a Wikipedia page that, like, links to the fact that his great however many grandfather was, like, a really famous defense attorney in Japan. Mm-hmm. And he probably has no idea.
No, of course, like, not.
There's some Wikipedia editor who, like, did the footwork to source all of this shit. And Wright is just like, oh, isn't that neat? I had no idea. You know? Weird.
Someone said that, like, because there's someone, like, when it first got revealed, like, they're gonna call him Herlock Sholmes, like, someone posted a screen cap in, I think, Justice for All, where Phoenix is like, yeah, that's right, Sherlock Holmes 2, baby. So yeah. Someone's theory is that the eventual Arthur Conan Doyle estate that did biographical tales about about Herlock Sholmes demanded that you change his name for any further material about the character. And so now his alternate name is they just switched letters to make it Sherlock Holmes.
It's starting to sound wrong in my head.
I know, that's the craziest part. Is that, like,
playing FGO. So, like, I just, like, as a small detour, I cleared Lost Belt 4 in FGO. And Sherlock Holmes is an important character in FGO. So I keep seeing his name written, and I'm like, oh, it feels wrong now.
That's not how it's said.
My brain is full of holes. My brain has just got worms just squirming away in there. It's horrible. I've been driven insane.
I know.
By having a new Ace Attorney game for the first time in 5 years. Turns out if you deprive people from, like, one of their favorite franchises for that long, it turns them into crazy people. Mm-hmm. Who knew?
Oh, but it's great. 1 or 2 is a great case. It's tons of fun.
And And then you gotta do 2-2.
And then 2-2 is not nearly as bad as Turnabout Big Top. I think everyone can agree to that.
That's exactly true. Turnabout Big Top is probably the worst case in the series.
Yep.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even put it in the
No, I would put it in the bottom group, like the lower tier for sure.
I would too.
It's not the worst, but it's close to being the worst. It's just none of the new characters are all that interesting. The ultimate motivation of the culprit is not.
It's really muddied.
It's not intriguing. It doesn't seem proper for the character.
Yeah, like everything is so like. There are two culprits here.
Yeah.
And kind of by doing that, you really muddy the like impact of revealing one or the other, because you've kind of got to juggle this weird. You've got to really kind of figure out like the time and space of kind of what's going on.
Yeah.
In relation to like when Olive gets stabbed in the back at the end of 1-3, or during the course of 1-3, I should say.
1-4.
Is it 1? No,
yeah, because 1-3 is McGilded.
Oh God, you're right. Wow,
yeah,
it was the fourth. It really was the fourth case in that game. God damn, this is the other problem with making basically 10 cases in a single game, is they do start to kind of get swapped up in your head. But no, it's just really muddy. Like I said, this idea of having to kind of reveal two culprits means that you really don't get to go too in depth into the sort of the inner world of either of them.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what's kind of going on in like your average Ace Attorney game is almost kind of like an on-the-fly character study of the villain as you play the case. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah, like I was about to say, like one of the things that makes it so thrilling is that the general process of, and what makes it like an interesting and why it still holds up is that like, you know, the gimmick is you meet a kind of flamboyant or like over-the-top cartoonish character who has like a bunch of quirks and like gimmicks about them, and then you meet like a handful of those type of characters, right? And they all have their own little weird thing about them.
Sure.
And then you start to break it all down, and then it recontextualizes the actions as you start to get closer and closer to who the culprit is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And one of the things that makes it so like what makes it hold up is that it's never like, here is a cartoon man, here is a cartoon lady, and here is a guy. Right. And it's very clearly the guy because he needs to be the serious one, right? Mm-hmm. Like, everyone has a weird thing about them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much like this idea of you're presented with like a big cast of varied characters, and because you've played an Ace Attorney game before, you have to look at that big cast of varied characters and go, well, one of you did it. And sometimes it's super obvious, and sometimes the super obvious one is a red herring in that way, you know? And the whole kind of the joy of figuring out is like taking apart each one of these new interesting characters you meet and seeing like if they could have had the motive and opportunity to do this crime. And in this case, it just doesn't work as well.
Yeah, I was left with this case being like, okay, but wait, how did she get into his apartment? And when exactly did she get in to do this? And how did she know to do this? And
yeah, it's all very, you don't have a good sense of kind of the spatial dimensions or the kind of the timeline of what's really going on. We know it was was several days before the first of Natsume's cases, because they kind of established that until that point he couldn't blow into the gas. And the gas thing, put a pin in that.
Yeah.
He couldn't blow into the gas pipe to try and flood Natsume's room with gas. So we know it's been a few days, but it's just kind of like, well, how did she know? How did she get in? How did nobody notice her? I know she's kind of meant to be, like, unassuming, but she is still a short, pudgy young woman in a bright green overcoat. Like, you're telling me nobody noticed her coming and going from this place? It was a very odd decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think about it and compared to, say, like 1-2, where, you also have a very, it was, the ultimate culprit was a very unassuming, shy young woman, but it was an accident, and it was compelling in that way because, she was obviously very broken up about being involved in this and accidentally killing someone. And that was the part that made it, like, intriguing and still, like, interesting. Olive doesn't have that.
Right.
And it's not satisfying because she doesn't go, she doesn't scream no and tear her hair out or, like, ruin her paintings in a big dramatic breakdown, right? You don't feel good convicting her. And so it just ends up not feeling satisfying, even as, like, haha, we found a murderer.
Yeah, absolutely. There's literally funny moments in the case, just as like a side note. I do think one of the funniest moments in the case is when the game is when it turns out that Shakespeare isn't dead.
Yeah,
because I didn't know it was coming. I personally was like, oh my god, he's not dead. Like, I thought he was for sure dead.
Yeah.
Which is great. Like, that's excellent. But, like, I feel like if the game had just been allowed, or if the case had just been allowed to be a little bit tidier and just have it all be, like, an elaborate way to try and frame Natsume. Like, if it had all just been Shakespeare, like, he had willingly killed that guy, like, the first guy who had lived in Natsume's apartment, and if he was just trying to, like, get Natsume sent off to jail again so that he could search his apartment more, like, that probably would have been more compelling. And then Olive was just like a witness to, like, be like, hey, yeah, he killed my boyfriend, that probably would have been more compelling instead of trying to do, like, this kind of dual culprit thing. It's funny, they actually do the dual culprit thing in the next case.
Yeah.
And they do it way better there.
It's so much better. Yeah. If this case had been, the answer is Shakespeare accidentally poisoned himself somehow, which is what I thought it was going to for a long time.
Yeah, same here. I thought it was going to be like Shakespeare accidentally poisoned himself in the process of trying to kill Natsume, right? Like, that seems simple. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, he didn't kill Natsume, but he killed this other guy, and he's our big culprit, And, like, he is, but they do this kind of weird detour with Olive's character.
Yeah, it all, like, yes, but also no. And it's like, okay, so he tried to kill Natsume, but then Olive tried to kill him because he killed Olive's boyfriend, but Olive is the one that gets the breakdown, but also Shakespeare does, but, like...
Shakespeare does have a good breakdown. I will give them that. He does have an entertaining breakdown.
Yeah. But it just feels all over the place. It doesn't feel satisfying. There aren't, like, a lot of, like, the idea of Shakespeare being the other guy's, like, cellmate, just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's never really confirmed by any hard evidence.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that it feels like in another, like, if this had been a bit more tightly constructed, there would have been, like, evidence.
Like
his release papers from when he got out of prison.
Yeah, or you would have found out like Shamspear is an alias and like his real name is whatever, and like the transcript, like the note mentions like, you know, hey, name.
Yeah.
You know, here's where you can find all my money.
My insane theory that I sent you while I was playing the game, and I still think it would have been more interesting, was that I thought Selden, that's the guy with the treasure, had faked his death and had gotten himself, and again, I kind of called that on accident with what's in like the last case of this game. I thought he had faked his death to get out of prison and had escaped and had gone back to his old apartment to try and find his old treasure, and he was Shamspear. Yeah,
that would have been much better too, because again, it's adding another character that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
if it was I faked my death, or like I managed to escape somehow, and now I'm here to find my treasure, but this idiot is now living in my old apartment. I gotta find a way to get rid of him so I can get in there myself.
Right, yeah, exactly. And that would have been interesting as well, you know, because then it ties it all together in a nice little neat bow. All of that is like a better option instead of kind of... And then we go on this really long and really unnecessary tangent about, like, the gas pipes.
Yeah, which was a lot of time.
Way too long.
Yeah, a lot of time to spend on something that, like... it felt like it was gonna go somewhere...
And it really doesn't.
And it mostly just kind of existed to put emphasis on the gas pipe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you could have cut down a lot of the back and forth. Like, we didn't need Quinby and God, what his name?
His name is literally Meterman.
Yeah, but it's like Drone B. Meterman or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Like, they couldn't decide if he wanted to be like a Meterman pun or a bee pun. And I also don't get the bees associated with gas company.
I think it's just that her name is Queen Bee, and so like everybody around her are her little worker bees, you know?
Yeah, but
I guess.
I mean, I did appreciate the Hornet aesthetic that Meterman had, like where his bag is his stinger. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, the design, I mean, like, the designs are, as always, like, on point.
As always, great.
Immaculately so.
But, yeah, we spend a lot of time with him, and it just feels like you could have really, like, we proved he was stealing gas, which did not end up being relevant.
Literally, the only thing that the gas stealing thing is really there for is to act as it's called a character witness in, like, actual, you know, courtrooms. It's a character witness thing where it's like, I'm calling this person to the stand to prove that they're a decent person, Your Honor, or you're calling them to the stand to prove that they're a shitty person, and that's why you should consider the fact that they might have done it, right?
Right.
So, you know, you're calling this guy to the stand to prove, like, because at that point, they're all like, well, he's a nice white British fellow, you know what I mean? Like, the whole jury is like, well, he's a nice white British lad who loves Shakespeare, and that's reason enough to think he couldn't have poisoned himself, so surely this shifty Japanese man did it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the whole reason why you have this gas stealing subplot, is to prove that, like, no, he's not actually, like, an upstanding member of British society, you know? He's a gas thief, which, one, stealing gas is not wrong. If you find a way to steal your natural gas to keep your house cold, or your house warm in the dead of winter, do it. Mm-hmm. The Gorge actually does endorse the incredibly cool crime of utilities theft.
Yeah, steal cable, it's fine.
Steal your cable, it's fine. It's cool. We approve of you.
No one's actually gonna check.
Yeah, nobody's gonna check, and the rates they charge you are a scam. So if you can find a way to get it for cheaper or for free, do it. So in that case too, like, I was like, yeah, this guy is smart for figuring out a way to get his gas for free. Good for him.
What Quimby and Meterman should have been is the group that explains how the piping works.
Sure, yeah,
and that's
exactly.
it, you know?
That's it.
Like, oh, okay, well, yeah, if we have these pipes we check to test the gas, yada, 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 if someone were to blow in them, we could tell if someone's stealing, or is hooking up their line to someone else, because everyone else's gas would go. And you go, oh, right, yeah, okay. And that's it. Like, the whole...
You're done.
Like, yeah, part of the fun about an Ace Attorney case is, like, the twists that lead you into, like, different directions, right? But, like,
sure.
Ultimately, all of the pieces you discover are interconnected, and they come together at the end to, like, find the true answer. And, yeah, a lot of the times, the prosecutor will be like, aha, thank you for proving my point. And you go, oh, no! Yeah. And that's, like...
You tricked me!
That's the fun of it. And,
Yeah.
But all of this about stealing gas meant nothing.
It was just a drag. And, like... So the whole reason that we have this, like, secret case that's actually set during... Which is, by the way, like, I love this game, but that's, like, a dog shit retcon.
That's such a stretch.
Such a stretch that it doesn't get brought up at all. Like, you could have found so many better ways to do it. So this whole thing exists to literally exists to establish the dog collar.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I guess it's because they didn't want to do another case without Susato as the defense assistant.
Yeah.
But, like, I really liked Iris as an assistant.
Yeah, it was very Pearl adjacent,
Yeah, and she's like a smart little kid too. So, she's a well-written child genius, which is really hard to do. So, like, I mean, you could have just done another case. I mean, I know that he's technically had his license suspended, but that in and of itself is kind of a stretch too. Like, to give him his license back earlier in the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like, have Iris act as his assistant, and that's it. And then you do something a little bit tighter to establish, like, literally, you're just establishing the dog collar. This whole rigmarole exists to... And even weirder, this whole rigmarole exists to establish the dog collar, and the dog collar is never entered into the court record.
No, it doesn't. It's one of these weird things where, like, usually when, like, you have to raise an objection or present evidence, or like recall a detail, there is 99% of the time a piece of evidence that can lead you in that direction. Like, if you've forgotten what someone said, Yeah. Like, even if you're not presenting evidence, there's something in the record that you can look at and be like, oh yeah, that's right, they did say that back, a while ago, that they mentioned that the thing was wrong.
Right.
The dog collar never comes up. It's never presented in anything. It's just a thing that you have to remember happened.
And it's really weird because there are multiple parts in the last case where it's like, I feel like I should be presenting the dog collar right now. Like, this is where I should be showing, like, yeah, this is the collar with the Baskervilles, symbol on it. It's like, that can tie this whole thing together, but it's not available to do that. It's so strange.
You know what it is without the mention of the dog collar, which ultimately, now that I think about it, doesn't actually need to be a thing.
Right.
Because, like, we get enough information from 2.4 and 2.5 that the finding the collar is not relevant at all, and mostly exists just to make 2.2 like, hey, it's part of the plot.
Right, yeah.
2.2 feels like a DLC case.
It does feel like a DLC case in a big way. Not a good DLC case,
no.
like the Orca.
No,
DLC
which was
case.
Super fun.
Yeah, it's an excellent one.
and it actually does the same. Like, the Orca case does the same thing that this one does, where it's like it kind of shoves itself earlier in the story. Mm-hmm. The Orca case does too, because by the time, like, I think it's 5-2, like, Phoenix already has his badge back, and it's implied that this case already happened.
Right, yeah, exactly. This is, the DLC case for Dual Destinies is, I think, technically Phoenix's first case.
Yeah.
After he gets his badge back.
Yeah. It's where he meets Simon. Mm-hmm. It's just, but this one just, it doesn't feel, it's such a weird case, and like, there are a lot of funny bits. I do love Shamspear and Natsume wrestling to prove whether Romeo or Juliet is stronger.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
The idea of this super neurotic Japanese poet and who just got found innocent of a crime. Yes. Of a crime of assault. Mm-hmm. And this beanpole of a failed actor. And they're like, let's put on some spandex and we'll duke it out Greco-Roman style.
It's incredible. It is very funny because it ties back into like the actual Soseki Natsume's time in London. He really did have like, it was a woman. I think her name was like Elizabeth something. He did have like a singular friend in London, and he enjoyed his time with her very much because they had a shared love of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of neat. You're pulling that in, and like, I love the whole, I love the wrestling thing. There's a lot of really good visual gags. I love that Herlock, perfect man, apple of my eye, ideal himbo detective, cops to the fact that he's eaten soap before. Yeah. Like, please don't admit that to people, Herlock. Don't admit to people that you've eaten soap before. Like, buddy, please.
Oh, it's great.
He's an idiot, and it's great. Go ahead.
I was gonna say there's one subtle bit of characterization that I actually really do like. And that is when you have just your one little interview with Garadeb, where he had the fire in him is gone.
Sure, yeah.
And it's just like, because, he had to climb those stairs and, stay in his apartment by himself for probably the first time in who knows how long.
Right.
And it's like, oh yeah, like, he... you're talking to this guy who's probably at like his lowest point, and it's, he's never had the house so quiet. Mm-hmm. And he's way more forthcoming with information because he's, his heart's not in it anymore. And I thought that was like a really nice bit without actually being overtly like, oh wow, Mr. Garadeb sure seems down, probably because his wife is missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in that same vein, I do think the whole scene where they walk in on Olive trying to kill herself is pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good little little kind of quiet, heartfelt moment. It's a shame that it's in service to a pretty lackluster conclusion. Mm-hmm. But like that whole moment was handled really well.
Yeah.
And the twist where it's like, oh, she's drinking something, and then I do like that, like, you're just kind of minding your own business and you realize that the rat has like died. Poor rat. The
giant dog-sized rat.
Yeah, poor rat. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, she really was just trying to kill herself. That's done really well. Like, there are moments in this that I do like, which does make it better than Turnabout Big Top.
Yes.
Which has nothing good in it.
No
whatsoever.
Good things.
Not a single good thing happens in Turnabout Big Top that I can think of.
No, it is a terrible, terrible case.
Wretched from start to finish. Nobody likes Turnabout Big Type. So it still has that going, but it's just like, this is a very odd case. Just overall, I mean, we're being really harsh on it because it does like genuinely suck. So you're like, how is this still the best Ace Attorney game? And I'm here to tell you.
The answer
2-3 is the best Ace Attorney case ever.
2-3 is the quintessential mid-game case. Like,
right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
The finales are in their own category because their structure is different. Their whole layout is different.
Yep.
And same goes for the tutorial cases, the first ones. But in terms of just like your standard mid-game case, you do not do better than 2-3.
2-3 is incredible. Every single part of it appeals to me personally.
Every character introduced is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The twists that this case has are incredibly interesting.
It's still tied to the main story of the game.
Yeah, they still manage to fold in a connection really, really well. They tie it in such a smooth way that you forget what you're actually trying to prove.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you get caught up on all these different tangents, and you're like, and then Van Zeek's like, okay, but how does that prove Harebrained innocent? And you're like, oh shit, that's right.
Oh right, that's why I'm here. Fuck. Harebrained, starting off like off the bat, Harebrained is a character that I didn't personally think I was going to like that much because that just kind of that type of character and that character design. I was like, oh man, okay, well, they can't all be Natsume. But I ended up liking him quite a lot, actually.
But then he has the best joke probably in Ace Attorney history.
Yes! So good that I had to post it to Twitter, which is him holding a teeny tiny little science journal. And he's like, yes, a small science journal published my little research paper. And I was like, the joke's too funny! That is pure
Chuck Jones.
Oh god, it totally is. It's such a Bugs Bunny joke.
Like, you can just imagine, like, you can imagine the joke where, like, whoever he's fighting is like, I had my little paper published in this little publication. It's like, wow, that really is a little publication.
Yeah, absolutely. I can hear Bob Block absolutely saying it like that. Oh, such a good joke.
It's great. There's so much, like, amazing setup. Every character you meet is fantastic. I love the little Bohemian Prince.
What?
The little Bohemian Prince?
Yeah. Oh. Yes.
And Balthazar Loon. They both. Oh my god, he's so. They're.
It's so good. It's so funny.
When I noticed that Balthazar's hat was in of itself a hot air balloon, I lost it.
Oh, A+ design. It's got the same look as like his big balloons. Like I love the hook of the first day of the case where it's like, no, Van Zeeks is arguing from the perspective of believing that the experiment worked.
And
which is great.
The crazy thing about this case is that it's plausible enough within the world of Ace Attorney that you do have to think like, but did it work?
See, the thing is that because it is a prequel game, right? Mm-hmm. Because it is a prequel game, and they take an airplane to Karayan in Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice. I'm like, okay, well, the teleportation steampunk machine probably didn't work.
But, it could have been like, oh, it worked, but, like, they have to dismantle it, and, like, his research gets burned up or whatever, and he has to abandon it for X other reason. But it's like, it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, but we know that ghosts exist, so...
Yeah, ghosts are real, so...
So did it actually... Did he put... Like, and Van Zeeks believes it, so, like, is there something to this?
Van Zeeks is the most serious man ever, so if he thinks it's real, like... Did it? Like, when the intro cutscene played, I was like, excuse me? Are we doing teleportation mysteries now? I beg your pardon?
They really could have done a little bit better with the breakup of the victim's name so that they did not have to keep calling him Ass Man.
The Ass Man cometh, or I suppose the Ass Man dieth.
All I could think of was, Cosmo Kramer, proctologist. I'm the Ass Man.
I'm the Ass Man. I get the joke. His name is Odious Man. He's a bad guy. He's an odious man.
Yes, of course.
Odie Asman.
Yes.
Sure. You could have spelt it differently.
You could have put like a Z instead of the S. Just
something. Anything other than the Ass Man. Rip to the Ass Man, but I'm different.
But
I simply would have let Dr. Courtney Scythe stab me to death instead of being surprised by it. Rip to the Ass Man, but I'm different.
But no, there's just so much involved in this, and there's so many like crazy turns that go on in this case, and as you start piecing it together, like you have no idea how things played out. Like there's no inkling you could even like hope to deduce,
or to even grasp like how the Wax Museum like side story has anything to do with like the main plot. And I got that like at some point I was like, oh okay, well the wax figure that was taken from the museum was just to act as a body double. Like at that point I was like, okay, cool. But like I could not anticipate that like the actual wax figure would be like monumentally important to both this case and the overarching plot of Great Ace Attorney 2, which is great. That being said, the best part about this case, so this case is set in October, right? Mm-hmm. Deliciously Halloween-y.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mwah, immaculate.
A mad scientist, you go to a creepy wax museum where there's like a Jack the Ripper thing, and
there's a witch, there's dioramas of people doing murders.
And an actual honest to God witch with a cauldron.
She's got
and she's lit like with spooky Halloween lighting.
She does like spooky Halloween like whisper motions, like, ooh, I'm going to tell you a scary story now. And there's a scary ghost story about a man coming back from the dead in a graveyard, and like it's literally a Halloween attraction in the middle of this steampunk science case. And as a firm lover of Halloween, my birthday is in October, so I can only be a Halloween girl, basically by default. I loved it. That alone makes it my favorite case, and then a bunch of other really cool shit happens on top of it.
Yeah.
And, but it's like, no, this is just a spooky Halloween case. There's ghost stories getting told. A man in an iron mask comes back from the dead and threatens a resurrectionist. Sick Big Gay Nerds reference, by the way, fanzeeks. Because our crew in Blades in the Dark, back in the day on Big Gay Nerds, we call ourselves the Resurrectionists because we're like, oh, that's a cool term for like people stealing shit. So like that actually was a term people used back in the 1800s for grave robbers. They would call them resurrectionists because they were literally, like finger quotes, resurrecting the dead by taking them out of their graves, right?
Yeah.
So they really did call them resurrectionists, and I was like, Big Gay Nerds reference. Cool. Big Gay Nerds SoundCloud.
If you think about it, if you kind of stretch it just a little bit, we have the Universal monsters in here.
We do have the Universal monsters in here.
We have a vampire. We have a witch.
Yes.
We have, if you want to, we have a Frankenstein.
Yeah,
we have a Dr. Frankenstein.
The professor's body is pretty, well, no, that's true.
Enoch.
Brain.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Enoch was digging up corpses for medical purposes.
Yeah, he is a Victor Frankenstein.
He's your Victor Frankenstein, and if you want to stretch it, the man in the iron mask with his jumpsuit is kind of Wolfman adjacent.
Sure, absolutely.
And you know, when we learn about later that, you know, with the dogs, it even becomes more fitting.
Oh, that's true. See? There you go. It is mwah, 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 deliciously Halloween-y.
Fantastic case. Oh my god.
Perfect spooks all the way around.
Every we talked a lot about how Ace Attorney has great designs. You know, it's one of the Capcom pillars is great character design. Every design in this case just is immaculate.
Oh, perfect. We have to talk very briefly, not to get too much on my bullshit, but we got to do it for just a second. So, Ace Attorney games have great character design, but they never really do, like, hot character design.
Right, like, if a character is, like, attractive, it's kind of like an accident.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, they had, like, Godot, who, like, I think everybody kind of universally agrees is hot, even if you don't really like that character. Like, he's still, like, a good-looking man.
Yeah.
But, like, even the really hot characters, you know, you kind of just have, like, Mia. If Edgeworth is kind of your vibe, then, like, Edgeworth.
You have...
If you like tall, broad men who with samurai swords, then you've got Simon.
You have characters who are handsome and beautiful, but
sure,
no one is
looking. Hot. Yeah, that being said, then we get to Great Ace Attorney 2-3, and it's like, what's going on? Excuse me? Kazuyanori-san? Sir? Please? So it's like, so there's Drebber, there's Scythe, there's Tuspels, there's Sholmes, but he's been in the whole game this whole time.
Yeah.
And there's Van Zeeks, if that's your thing, too. So that's 5 in one case. We are at hot character, like, critical overload at this point.
I know.
It's crazy. It owns.
Oh, it's great.
Dr. Scythe. Dr. Courtney Scythe. Please call me. I will be your daughter's new mom. I promise. And the designs themselves are incredible, even if they weren't hot. I mean, they are hot. But, like, the moment I saw Enoch Drebber, not even from, like, a hot standpoint, just from, like, a character design standpoint, he's so good. Oh,
he's great. Their animations were immaculate for him.
Oh, they're perfect. Just these herky-jerky animatronic steampunk robot man animations that are just, you know, really get across that he's just like a weird engineer guy at this point in his life.
The thing you realize this is still the 1900 at most, right?
Sure.
So he's not a cyborg, he's just doing that.
He's just now, like you said, the level of tech that's going on in the Ace Attorney world is slightly off from, like, what we've got, because ghosts are real, so really anything is possible. So, I mean, this man could have a 1900 steampunk cyborg arm. Who knows? But I definitely know that his eyepiece is just an eyepiece. He doesn't have a cyborg arm.
If it was a cyborg man, it would have come up.
That's true. Good point. How did you lose your arm?
Yeah. If it had been like he lost his arm like during the incident at the graveyard or whatever.
Sure.
So no, he's just a weird guy.
He's just a weird guy who's wearing like a clockwork glove.
Oh, one of the best dance of deductions in 2-3.
Fantastic.
Oh, incredible.
It's my personal favorite. I know the last one of the game is a lot of people's favorite, and I totally get it. But, like, this is my favorite one. My second favorite one is the second to last one, which we'll talk about.
In a bit.
And then the last one is, like, my third favorite one, because it's fun, but, like, the goofiness combined with, like, the really cool visuals of, like, walking through a room with all the furniture floating and stuff, is great. It's so much fun. It's like, yeah, we have these 3D models, and that means we can do, like, really visually interesting stuff with them.
I wanted to take a screenshot, but I couldn't because it contained, like, super heavy spoilers for 2-3, but, like, when Herlock is explaining the floating objects in the room and the anti-gravity device, Susato has the most perfectly concerned look on her face.
Yeah. Susato has the best concerned expression in the whole series.
Yes, because there's so much pity in it, too.
There's so much emotion on that girl's face. She's just like, oh, is this really what you're going with?
Oh, you think... you mean this. Okay.
Oh, no. Never meet your heroes, Susato. I'm sorry. But no, the visuals are great. Like, the floating furniture and then it falling back down again is just like, it just looks cool. I'm sorry. I have a pea brain who is easily amused by interesting visuals.
I like them casually joking about opening the safe. Yes. And how they're like, I bet he did not expect us to stay in this room for this long.
Yeah. And the fact that the dynamite is real dynamite.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about Gina making her triumphant return.
God. There's so much going on in this case and all
I
the
know.
rules.
Good for her. She's making something of herself.
She got a dog?
She did get a dog. A dog that she named after her boss?
The dog she named after her boss / surrogate father figure. It's the cutest video game dog I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yes, the best dog animations ever.
You understand the nature of dog. Like, whoever animated Toby the dog understands, like, what goes on between the ears of a dog, which is not a lot.
No.
Not a whole lot. But what does happen is important. So, that's good. But yeah, no. Adorable dog. Gina, she's got a new, like, her design, I mean, again, they didn't have a lot of money for this game.
Right.
It's very obvious. But she got a new design. It looks great. She's got, like, a proper jacket now, and she gets to boss people around, which I'm sure is the only thing she's ever wanted in her life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But, like, yeah, there's so much good stuff going on. We don't get to see it because, again, they cut the budget for this game super, super hard. But there is a dramatic explosion. We promise. Just off screen. Don't worry. It
happened over there. Don't think about it. It's fine.
We didn't have the money to animate that, so you're just gonna have to believe us when we tell you that it exploded. But yeah, we get. There's so much good stuff in this case. It is my favorite case in the entire series.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, it's just so much fun. It isn't as, I mean, it is plot important in the way that all cases in Great Ace Attorney are plot important. It's not as vital as the end of 2, but, like, there's just so much fun stuff happening in it. There's so many good little visuals. There's a lot of, like, fun puzzle solving and snooping around and character interactions, because we've hit the point at this juncture in time where, like, Herlock and Susato and Ryunosuke have, like, fully assimilated with each other, right?
Yeah.
Like, they are all, like, on the same wavelength at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, all of the Dance of Deductions from, like, now going forward feel way more just, like, two people talking shit to each other while solving mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
And way less, like Ryunosuke is at all intimidated by, like, the great detective Sholmes, you know?
Right.
So he's, like, totally climbed the mountain of thinking that this guy is impressive at all. So there's, like, a lot of really good little character moments like that. And just, like, there's so much fun stuff. The whole... This case does a good thing that they do with 1-4, where it's like, what does this? You know, so there's 2 Dance of Deductions in this case. There's the one in Spells, and there's the one in Drever's lab. And, you know, the first one does a thing that they did in in the initial Natsume case, where it's like, what does this have to do with like the main case? Like, why is me discovering why this wax figure is missing? Like, what is, like, how important is that? And you're just thinking, like, this isn't connected at all. Well, at this point, I should say, you're thinking it's not connected at all in 1-4, right?
Right.
And then it turns out, no, it's, like, extremely connected. So at this point, you're just like, fine. I will let Sholmes just take me wherever he wants to go, because clearly he knows what's going on more than I do.
It's like we talked about last time, where it's just like, if something gets added to the court record, it's gonna be important later.
It's important now. Sorry. This all goes back to the fact that Herlock Sholmes is an idiot. Or is he?
Yeah, the drawing Pearl made that Phoenix wants to put on the office fridge, it got added to the court record, so something in it's gonna be important.
Yeah, and this game does that, this case does that a lot too, where, like, I think, like, the last case of 2 has, like, a lot of early evidence that never gets used again. Mm-hmm. You know?
But it doesn't do the previous case thing where Phoenix was like, you know what, none of this will be important. It's like discarded evidence that isn't relevant anymore.
Right. But 2-3, like, you get a lot of early evidence that stays important.
Yeah. They do a great job of, like, making sure everything comes back up and, like, is tied together. There's just the pacing, the thought process of this case is so good. Every character just nails it. They're all intriguing and mysterious and fun to interact with. The only thing we're missing out of this case is a really satisfying breakdown.
Oh, you're right.
Like, Courtney just kind of gets tense.
Yeah, she just kind of gives up, and Drebber also just kind of gives up.
How are you gonna make a cool animatronic Clockman and not have, like, sprockets and springs explode out of him?
I know, it's a shame.
Like, how are you, like, not gonna have all of his bits fall off and he becomes, like, a really smooth moving, like, normal person?
Right? Yeah, that's true. I feel like part of it is that a lot of the culprits, except for, like, the one in this game, are still presented to a certain degree in a kind of sympathetic light. Like, Drebber, at this point, even before his breakdown, has kind of thoroughly established that, well, one, he was planning to kill a bad guy, you know? And this bad guy, like thoroughly ruined his life.
Right, yeah. I mean, the dude's name is Odious Man. Like, he's not... Yeah, no one's upset that he died.
No, nobody is sad that this man is dead. So, I guess the thing is that, like, the kind of guiding idea is that, like, sympathetic culprits don't really get, like, huge meltdowns, usually. So, and the fact is that, like, a lot of the culprits in this game, and these games, are more sympathetic than kind of your mainline killers. So I kind of get that, but I still would have liked to have seen something.
Yeah, just some, like even Raiten is a more sympathetic character, and, like, you understand his motivation for why he did it. Sure. But he has a breakdown. He has a really good breakdown.
He does, yeah. He gets to get thrown across the courtroom. Yeah. I just would have liked, something.
Yeah.
But we do get, this all leads into, oh god, we didn't even talk about the fact that, this whole case kind of opens with, like Van Zeeks' weird sex apprentice. I was like playing this and texting you, like, is this some Eyes Wide Shut shit? Like, what is going on, my man?
I also like that, like, right away, Ryunosuke and Susato were like, that's Kazuma, right? Yeah, that's totally Kazuma.
They have the same conversation that everybody playing the game had, which was like, well, process of elimination says it can only be Kazuma.
Yeah.
There's nobody else important enough to be under that mask who is also, like, a youngish guy who knows how to use a sword. Like, that's really important.
Yeah.
They show, like, that shot on the back of the newspaper of Van Zieks and his apprentice, like, fighting thugs in the streets with swords, which owns, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so he's like a young guy, and nobody knows where he's from. And he's like, kind of Ryunosuke's age. And he knows how to use a sword. Okay, that's Kazuma.
They're like, his vibes are like Kazuma. And they're like, yeah, that's totally Kazuma.
Yeah, they don't even waste time, like, going like, ooh, is it Kazuma? Is it? No.
I appreciate them not insulting our intelligence in this way.
Yeah, no. They instantly, like, on the first investigation day, Susato is like, that's Kazuma. And then the game basically hard confirms it in that.
Yeah.
moment. And it's like, okay, thank you. Okay.
And then we get witchcraft, which is
Witchcraft!
that they fully
Black
animate
magic!
a cutscene.
In a fully animated cutscene inside the courtroom!
In engine!
You thought Ryunosuke Naruhodo walking back and forth behind the witness stand was black magic. Just you wait.
This one has voice acting.
It's got voice. They even do the thing where, like, oh god, the transition, I was losing my mind because the way, so, like, if you're listening to this and you haven't played this game, why? Turn it off. Go play it. Watch it on YouTube. But, like, you know, they do the thing where Van Zieks is behind the prosecutor's bench, and he's in his normal talking pose and angle, you know? And you're like, okay, so this is just gonna be a chat that happens inside the courtroom, which is like a thing they've done before at this point. Like, Ryunosuke and Van Zieks have had a conversation already inside the courtroom that was just them in their normal presenting poses. And so he's in, like, his normal pose, and then he walks away from the bench?
Yeah.
And the camera angle changes? And there's voice acting?
It's unbelievable.
It's black magic.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've never in my life. You know, modern video games are like, listen, you can see every single pore on Ellie's face in The Last of Us 2. And I'm like, shh, nobody cares, Neil Druckmann. They're walking around inside the courtroom. That's it. That's all that matters. That's the greatest technological leap a video game series has ever made, in my personal opinion.
It's like
they made cutscenes inside the courtroom.
It's like we talked about during our last roundup, where I was like, maybe if Great Ace Attorney had ray tracing, it would be my favorite game of the year. But then it's like, okay, well, we're gonna have a cutscene where the characters walk around and actually talk to each other, and I'm like, what?
Oh, so it is game of the year then. I see. Thank you, Great Ace Attorney. No, it was incredible. And the cutscene itself is really good too.
Yeah, I also like the fact that Van Zieks is just in the room while this is happening and just decided to not say a single thing while Ryunosuke, Susato, and Kazuma are having their big reunion.
They're having this big moment. It's like the most romantic shit I've ever seen in my entire life in a video game between Ryunosuke and Kazuma. Van Zieks is in the background like, why are you having feelings in my courtroom? But at least he's keeping it to himself. He's
just like, well, it's too awkward for me to leave the room now.
I still have to exposit shit after they're done having their emotional moment. It's great.
Kazuma defaces public property or private property.
Oh yeah.
He does cut the head off of a wax statue that does not belong to him and is in fact privately owned by a wax museum.
Listen, it's fine. That woman did some real shady shit. And knowing what we know from, like, later on, like, that man was still alive when she was taking, like,
Yeah.
Like wax molds of his head. I love to spells because she's hot and she's funny. And she stabs Sherlock in the head a bunch of times, or at least a bust of him, a wax bust of him. And it's like, I understand. But like, that is some shady shit to like desecrate a grave to take a wax cast of it.
Well,
of like this kid's dad.
No, she didn't. That was before they put him in the ground.
No, he was in the ground.
No, it was while he was.
No, she was talking. I mean, like, he wasn't. I don't think he was covered in dirt yet. But like she paid off the gravedigger to let her like take a mold of his head as they were basically digging this man's grave.
Okay, yeah, but she didn't dig him up to do this.
She didn't, yeah, but like she was still like,
She was just like, hey, can I get in there for a sec?
Okay, then excuse me, Benjamin. She was desecrating a corpse. Is that better?
Look, Look, I'm sure there is like a process to doing that for like certain historical figures, like not nowadays, but like back in the day. Like I'm sure that was like common practice to take, like not common, but like you know what I mean.
They took death masks of people. Yeah.
So like, it's just the same thing. She didn't know he was alive. She was just like, hey, can I? And this was like a special situation where it's like, okay, but can I just sneak in there for a little bit
and take a cast of this dead man's face? Not actually dead, but going to be very soon.
Like it's one of those things, like if this wasn't the professor in like a really really like special case, like it would have been like they would have been like, yeah, fine, go ahead, like you do your weird thing, witch lady.
She would have been, by the way, she's 26. She would have been 16 doing that.
Yeah.
Which is great, even better. Love all the characters in this case because they're all deranged in their own way.
But no, it's great, and you just get like this another like big piece of this like, oh shit, this still doesn't explain why you're here, Kazuma, but I understand a little bit more.
To a degree, at that point, I like got why Kazuma was going to Great Britain. It was like, oh, okay, he doesn't think his father did it, so he's come to Great Britain to figure out like what actually happened to his dad.
I also like the part where Kazuma becomes Lloyd Irving.
Yeah. He literally does though, because his white suit looks just like Lloyd's fancy costume in Tales of Symphonia. Yeah.
He keeps his swords like in the exact same position Lloyd does.
And he's even got like a flappy bit on his costume.
Yep.
And I just feel like he should look at Van Zieks at one point and be like, well, 2 swords means double the power, right?
The annoying thing, and this is true for all of Great Ace Attorney, why didn't any of them draw their swords for a cool animation thing? Like, Kazuma does in 1-1.
One time. That's it.
But, like, it should have, and Simon has a thing where, like, he does, like, hand sword things, right?
Yeah.
Like, he has an animation where, like, he tries to draw his sword and the handcuffs stop him. It's great. It's really cool.
It's because Simon is the best prosecutor in this series.
So Ryunosuke has a sword, Kazuma has a sword, and Van Zieks has a sword. Why did none of them have a single animation where they draw it?
I feel like if anybody is going to draw a sword in the courtroom, it's gonna be that dramatic bitch Barack Van Zieks, right?
Why don't so I'm pretty sure like doesn't Kazuma like cut a wine bottle open?
He does saber the bottle open, which is very cool.
But why wasn't Van Zieks doing that for every case?
I know, that's true.
Like, he could have been cutting corks off nonstop throughout the trial.
That would have been so much cooler.
It should have been one of his mess-making animations.
Just the messiest fucking prosecutor. of all of them, by the way. Even Godot and his fucking coffee has got nothing.
At least Godot finishes a cup of coffee and then he's
true.
done with it. Like he only throws like a coffee cup like 1 or 2 times, right?
That's true. Yeah, it's always a big moment when he hooks a coffee cup at Phoenix.
Yeah, he shatters one in his hand, but that's back when he was Diego, right? Like, and that's like a big dramatic moment, right?
Right.
Godot is way more polite.
Yeah, Godot is way more polite than this nobleman who's making a huge mess for the Bailey cleaning staff. Like, gotta imagine being those guys, just like watching Van Zeeks walk into the Bailey and you're like, God damn it, okay.
Not only after all this do they have to clean up Van Zeek's mess, but after 2-3, someone's got to get a really big stick to pop all the balloons that have floated to the top of the ceiling.
Yeah, I just want to believe that it's the judge has to do it because it's his courtroom.
Yeah.
You gotta get a big long stick with like a tack on the end.
Yeah.
Pop all the balloons that floated up there.
It is one of my favorite gags in this case is just Balthazar and the little kid getting in a fight and then he just hands Balthazar a coin. And
yeah.
Balthazar's face like has the most perfect face for giving a balloon to a little boy. It is such a kind smile.
Yeah. He's getting paid a lot by this little rich shithead. I'd be happy too. Oh, God.
Where that bit where he's like, I have lots of money.
Yeah, they do it twice. It's the perfect amount of times for the joke. They only do it twice because he does it once and he pays Balthazar for the balloon. And then like a couple minutes later they do it again. He pays Balthazar, and he looks right at the camera and says, I still have lots of money. And you're like,
perfect.
Mwah! Immaculate. Perfect joke. Great case. Perfect case.
Oh, absolutely. It's
everything I would want in a case.
Yeah.
It's set at Halloween. There's spooky shit happening all over the place. A lot of hot characters. It's plot important. The actual mystery at hand is really good, too. Like, it's great. We get to go to a wax museum, and you get to see some more spooky shit. Perfect. 10 out of 10. Ideal case. They should all be like this. Give me a whole Ace Attorney game set at Halloween.
So 2-4 and 2-5 are not quite as good as 2-3, but they're super still up there.
They're still good, if only because they open with the greatest plot twist in probably any Ace Attorney game, which is, we killed Gumshoe.
Yeah, we... it's like, there are certain characters that are just like, in this game that's about big dramatic murders that are marked as safe, right?
Absolutely.
Like, there's like a group that's like, they're never gonna be the killer, and they're never gonna be the victim.
Right.
And I didn't know that Gregson wasn't in that group.
Gregson tried real hard to get over that safe line, and they closed that gate on his ass at the last possible minute.
Yep.
Like, oh, sorry, buddy. I was texting you relentlessly, like, this is a joke, right? Like, he's gonna actually turn up to still be alive, and it was all part of some elaborate scheme by fucking Sholmes or something.
And then it's like, nope, there's his body. Oh, nope, that is dead.
That's a corpse. Okay, then. They actually just... You get a picture of his body as a piece of evidence. Okay, then. Alright.
But before that, we also have the scene where Herlock becomes Kakyoin.
I was thinking Claire Stanfield from Bakano. I was just like staring at my TV, and I'm like, hang on a second. Hang on just a minute, governor. And I had to Google it, and I literally like held my phone up to my screen, and I just could hear in the back of my head a voice going, same as it ever was, same as it ever was, same as it ever was.
See, I would have gotten Claire Stanfield too, but like what made me think of Kakyoin was that when he's doing his like with his like neutral standing pose where he's kind of like 3/4 to you. Mm-hmm. There's something in the background of his apartment that is like this, like I think it's like a clock on the mantelpiece, but it has this red swoop that blended in perfectly with the back of his hair. And I couldn't.
It's a shoe.
Yeah, and I couldn't separate them. And I'm like, that just looks like part of his hair. He looks like Noriaki Kakyoin from part 3.
I totally get that, though. No, it's wretched. Don't ever. Go back. Put it back.
No.
What have you done to yourself?
He even looked better when he had, like, the blue hair.
The blue hair actually looked great, honestly. Yeah. I mean, it matches very well with Iris's fucking cotton candy pink hair. Mm-hmm. So, you know what? I feel like we should take a slight detour before we get into... Because we still have we're only an hour and 30 in. We've been very efficient this episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Mostly because we didn't have to deal with, like, the introduction shit that the first episode had to do. So, let's take a detour and talk about the 4 main characters of this game real quick.
Okay.
There are 4 major characters of Great Ace Attorney. It's Ryunosuke, Susato, Sholmes, and Iris.
Yeah.
They all rule.
They're great.
This is my favorite cast in an Ace Attorney game ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, hands down. Like, they're just great. Sholmes is a man in his 30s who's like, I'm going to adopt every single wayward child in Great Britain and nobody can stop me. Like we were saying, Susato has the, she starts out with what I call, at this point, Ace Attorney girl syndrome, which is,
They're kind of spacey, and just, like, generically cute.
16 to 19, kind of spunky, usually dark-haired. Athena is, like, the rare exception to the rule. They're kind of sporty. They all have kind of a sporty thing about them. Maya gets to escape this just by virtue of being the first, and they're all based off of Maya. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, like, Trucy, I love Trucy, but Trucy has never been given a chance to actually become a real character.
Right.
Because, like, she was created in Takumi's last mainline Ace Attorney game, and then, like, that whole plot line got smothered in the crib, as they say.
Yep.
So Trucy just kind of got relegated to spunky brown-haired girl sidekick character for Apollo.
They should, if they make an Ace Attorney 7, they should do a magic show gimmick during investigations.
If they make an Ace Attorney 7, it should be about Athena, mostly, because, again, Athena is, like, so close on the cusp of being, like, an interesting character, like a legitimately interesting character. She's just, like, she's almost there. But she kind of still falls into the same, like, spunky Ace Attorney sidekick girl thing. Mm-hmm. And Susato started like that, and I was playing this game, and I was like, she's just another one. She's just a spunky Ace Attorney girl.
She shares a lot of Maya's animations. Mm-hmm. But then she becomes, like, really, really important and, like, competent and intriguing.
Yeah, she's really interesting. She's got a lot going on with, like, her character. She has, like, an inner world of, like, her own thoughts and concerns. She branches off and actually gets to try her own case, as, dressed as a boy. And she just kind of stays interesting. They kind of in the same way they dropped Iris's extremely bad theme, they also dropped the gimmick of Susato just, like, constantly throwing Ryunosuke, which got old after the 3rd time.
Yep.
It's like, okay, we get it. She can throw people. She only throws him, like, once in the 2nd game, I think.
Yeah. Does she?
She only throws him once, and I can't remember the context, but it does happen.
Wasn't it in 2-3 when she reappears?
No, because that's in the courtroom?
No, but, like, during one of the recesses, I think.
No, because she just appears in the courtroom. Like,
yeah, but like in the recess later, I think she might have done it.
She does it one time toward the end.
Yeah,
that's it. Like that I can recall. She might have done it twice, but like that's it in like the whole of Great Ace Attorney 2. So I was like, oh, cool. So
It's probably expensive to rotate the scenery.
They were just like, we are desperately trying to keep this game's costs down. But no, she becomes like an actual character. She's got intrigue. She's got drama with her dad, where he's like keeping secrets from her, and you know, she's like trying to figure it out, but like she still loves her dad and doesn't think like he's done anything wrong per se, but he is keeping a secret from her. It's like, yeah, that's really interesting. We actually have like a, you know, she's like a fully fledged character all on her own that I really like. And she's like we said last episode, she's easily the most competent of all these judicial assistants.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, she saves your ass so many times. She's so competent, she can try cases on her own without you, which is great. And then we have, like, I really like Iris. As a kid characters are hard. Smart kid characters are harder. Because, like, you have to really toe the line of being smart and a kid.
It's hard enough to write dialogue that sounds realistic for, like, anywhere between 3 and 12 years old. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to thread that needle, depending on what age they're supposed to be.
Right.
Even more so when they have a gimmick like being very smart.
Yeah, being a child genius on top of just being a child. Like, it's very hard, or very easy, I should say, to just make a character like that sound too old or not act like a child. But no, Iris acts like a little kid. She's gullible and can be tricked with sweets and still has, like, a good heart and, you know, all that good stuff. She does dumb kid shit, like leaves her food laying around the house for her dad to pick up after her.
Yep.
And, like, despite being, like, a literal genius, super baby genius who has a medical degree and writes novels in her free time, it's still like, nope, this is still a 10-year-old girl who does 10-year-old girl things, and who has a great winter costume. I love her little hair.
Yeah, her little hat that she wears.
A little hat that keeps her buns all intact. It's so cute. It's great. It's great character design. And, like, yeah, like, Ryunosuke is good too. Like, everybody's really good, you know?
Yeah, they are. I really do like that they restrained themselves so much with Iris's inventions too.
They actually, yeah, it would be super easy to have Iris being a super baby mega genius, being like the thing that solves all problems, you know?
Yeah, like giving, like, she has a handful of inventions, but they're utilized really, really well. Mm-hmm. We're gonna get to my favorite one in a little bit, but, like, so much of it, like, it works and it's not a catch-all solution. We didn't talk about it that much, but I really, really loved the fact that the blood sampling spray, they had to work to use it as evidence because it was not an officially recognized forensic examination tool.
Absolutely. It's not admissible in court, so you have to work around it. You can use it to draw conclusions, to be like, okay, well, we know so-and-so was here. Now, how do we prove it without using this blood, because this is not admissible evidence? That's, like, real courtroom shit. Again, mm-hmm. Like, that's an actual thing you do in a courtroom, where you have, like, a piece of evidence, but you can't use it because it was acquired incorrectly, or it's been contaminated in some way. So you have to find, like, an alternative route to prove the same thing. Which rules? Like, that's great. It's not like an easy, like, catch-all, like, these untested experiments, we're just gonna let them be used in court. because the main characters use them, Athena.
Right, yeah.
Like, that's cool. I love that. And you know, she has a handful of, like, useful inventions, but none of them, like, really... The only one that really saves the day, like, in a big, hardcore way, is the fucking cat door maker.
Yeah.
The least practical of all of them.
Which in of itself is explained really well within the context of the story and makes sense and fits. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, oh, okay, yeah. Everything that she pulls off makes sense within the world, and that's super important, and that's really hard to do when you have a super genius child like this.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when you're kind of like threading the steampunk needle. Like, they didn't go full steampunk, but they came awfully close.
Yep.
But I'm glad they didn't go full steampunk, because, you know, like, it still kind of keeps things in you know, relatively grounded for an Ace Attorney game, like, within the realm of possibility, except for one thing at the very end.
Yeah, but you know what? I have a lot of thoughts about that. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I think it was great.
It's great. No, it's great.
We'll get to why I think that. But yeah, the four main characters are just so good. They're so great. Ryunosuke, he doesn't do much to stand out from Phoenix himself. Like, he's basically a transplant of Phoenix.
Kind of like if Phoenix and Apollo did the fusion, huh?
Yeah, like he's got the rookie like vibe that Phoenix kind of abandoned pretty quickly. But he's still great, and it works because, you know, Phoenix and Apollo are both really good characters.
Yeah. I actually think kind of one of the things that I like about Ryunosuke, and maybe it's just because I'm misremembering the fact that I just haven't played any Ace Attorney game in 5 years, and it's been even longer since I've played the original trilogy. But I feel like Ryunosuke kind of finds his confidence in the courtroom, like, a lot faster than Phoenix and Apollo.
He also doesn't bluff nearly as much as Phoenix and Apollo do.
That is true. That's definitely that's a Wright family special. That's
yeah. You know that is a skill that that is the difference between Jonathan and Joseph right there.
Absolutely.
Phoenix is definitely that picture of Moon Knight going, random bullshit, go!
Yeah, Phoenix is just like, I'm just gonna make shit up and hope that the evidence supports it.
If I say it confidently enough, I can trick the court into believing it while I buy time.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryunosuke hasn't quite mastered that element of being in the courtroom yet.
No, he's way more. And also, the other problem is that, like, the people he deals with are a lot harsher and more direct consequences if he fucks up.
That's true.
He's way less more hesitant to be like, I mean, I could make a wild accusation here, but if I'm even the slightest bit off,
they're gonna put me on a boat back to Japan in 5 minutes. Oh god.
Which comes to a head in 2.4 and 2.5.
We did it. I told you we'd bring it all back around. I really wanted to take like a second to talk about how good like the four main characters really are.
No, for sure. And you know, this is such a 2.4 and 2.5 don't have the. It's kind of a little bit of a letdown to go from the fantastic cast of 2.3 to a much more like involved but like smaller cast, you know.
Yeah, and I think. Oh, go ahead.
I'm a little upset that Sandwich and Venus aren't relevant after 2.4.
Oh yeah.
Part of the fun about Ace Attorney games is that when things start getting serious, you know, like, and you're starting to really dig into what happened in this finale, you know, every so often one of the random joke characters from early in the case will pop up again.
Right, they'll come up and be like, I actually have a decisive piece of evidence, Governor. You know?
Yeah.
But no, we don't really get that. I would have liked to have seen Beppo come back and redeem himself.
Yeah. This poor cold old man.
He's just cold all the time.
Give him a blanket or something.
Oh God. But like, at the same time, I kind of understand why, like, the kind of secondary cast is so minor in comparison. Because at this point, it has been 8 cases of like, build up to this case. We've gotten to know, like, we extremely know the victim. Like, everybody's devastated over Gregson. Everybody gets upset about Gregson. Even if you hate cops, it's like, oh, Gregson, you're trying to do better. You know, like, so it's like, what's being told at this point in the story is like a story about the main cast. Like, this is the culmination of everything that's been happening between the entire main cast. This involves, like, Gregson, Gina, Sholmes, Mikotoba, Iris, Susato, Ryunosuke, Kazuma, Van Zeeks, all of them. This is something that's, like, intimately tied to all of them in one way or another. Like, even Ryunosuke, who was kind of an outsider to, like, the primary drama of, like, the professor case, is still, like, intimately entangled in it because it's what brought his best friend to Great Britain, and that's the reason he got to come.
Yeah, it's the thing where Strongheart mentions, like, repeatedly, is like, are you prepared to take on the task that Kazuma came here for?
Right.
And you never find out what that is until now.
Yeah, and it's obvious that Kazuma never told Ryunosuke, like, the real reason, the 2 real reasons at that point we realized that he was going to Japan, was, like, he was going to try and find out what happened with his father and potentially clear his name, or at least get more of the truth.
Yeah, get some closure on it.
Right.
And it comes at the expense of, you know, shoo out the clowns. The wacky characters kind of have to fade away pretty quickly because there's no space for them. Right.
We can't really delve into, like we were saying earlier in this episode, we can't really delve into the inner world of the secondary characters because, like, this is where we are getting into the meat and bones of, like, the main characters.
Yeah, this isn't your typical, like, 5th case where it's like the underlying plot is weaving into this unrelated incident. This is about 10 years ago.
Right. Like, that's all it is. After a certain point, even, like, Gregson getting murdered is kind of secondary to what... Because, like, by the time day 1 resolves, we already know who killed Gregson. Like, we got that answer. But, like, now it's about, like, unraveling the rest of the case and finding out who was responsible for that happening.
Yeah, for everything else that happens with it and how it all ties together.
Yeah. And in that way, it's extremely different compared to your average Ace Attorney case.
Yeah, for sure. But it's still just so, like, fascinating and intriguing. And even the early bits where you do have those wacky characters. I love Rosho and Rosie.
I hate Rosie. I do not like DeRossi. I hate that character design. I hate that little treat boy. I don't like looking at him.
I hate his design, but they're so goofy. Their goofy. Accents are so ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rosie does a Super Mario jump, like, as one of his animations, and like if you read the description of like you know, you can go to, like, the character bios and, like, the concept art stuff, and they're like, Yeah, we added the Shoryuken just because we could.
Just because we had it. We're Capcom.
Yeah, we're Capcom. We can do that.
We just have the Shoryuken laying around. We can stick it in our games if we want to. It's great. It's amazing.
Yeah, you get all these like this weird like you're like, how the hell is this red-haired league gonna tie into the case ultimately? And it ultimately doesn't, beyond serving as a distraction and a red-haired herring, I guess.
I was literally about to say, it's a literal red herring.
Yeah.
Red
herring.
It's amazing. But it does kind of tie into like the fact that Gregson was up to some shady shit. He was using what's that guy's name? Daily.
Daily
Vigil.
Vigil Daily Daily Vigil and EV Vigil.
Yeah. We got it, Ace Attorney.
Stupid
fucking names.
But it's a much better subterfuge and like setup than the gas thing from
absolutely.
2-3 or from 2-2.
They're doing a lot of the same kind of ideas of like spy shit and subterfuge, but handled in a lot better way, because it's like, yeah, we are kind of trying to prove that Gregson was involved in some shady shit, because he clearly had someone going around being his alibi, you know? I kind of like that they never really exonerate Gregson from being involved in the Reaper shit.
No, never. Like part of the great thing is that like this ties into what I was talking about with 1-5, where it's like, yeah, Gregson was prepared to let this little girl be executed for the sake of the country, and that comes back in this case where it's like he still is involved in these things for what he thinks is the greater good. And this fits so much, and this is one of those things where it's like, oh, this is why this takes place in 1900s, because you didn't have a photograph with your ID,
right?
So yeah, it's believable that like a guy could pose as an inspector because no one would know what he's supposed to look like.
Yeah, he had the official Scotland Yard papers badge thing, and he could wave that around and function as Gregson's alibi, and so it was like, yeah, they never really absolve Gregson of doing shady shit. Like, even when Gina says no, you need to prove that the boss didn't do this, it's like, well, no, he actually did. He was involved in helping orchestrate these murders of people who ostensibly might have deserved it, but still that's vigilante justice being carried out by the highest power in the land.
Yeah,
is not good.
No, that is very there's a lot of cases in this game where the judge warns you, this will have severe ramifications for the justice system we've built. This is the biggest one.
It's the biggest one.
It implicates a lot of very important people.
Yeah, and I mean, one, burn that bitch down. We hate England, even if I like all the characters in this game.
I just kept thinking of that one quote from, I think it was Penny Arcade of all things, where it was when they were trying to catch someone who was scamming people, and they were like, I will burn down everything I've created if it means catching them in the flames.
Yeah, absolutely. That's basically a Game of Thrones quote in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's great. It's very there's texture, there's layers, like an onion. Like all the layers of fish and chips inside of Gregson's veins.
I could really go for some fish and chips right now. I hate how appetizing those three words are.
I know. I actually would like some really fried fish right now. That actually sounds really good. But
is there a good diner we could get someone I'm down there?
No, that's actually not true. We actually do have a fish market. They might have fish and chips. We should check it out.
Okay. We might have to check that out.
But that's a secret for next week. Anyways, the point is, like, you know, there's a lot going on in 4-5 and 2-4 and 2-5. Especially the fact that, like, I was playing 2-4 and all this shit was happening and Gregson was dead and Kazuma's the prosecutor and oh my god, and I'm like, this is only the fourth case. What happened to the fifth one?
You were like, how can we? And you're like, I couldn't say anything. You're like, how is this happening? This isn't the final case. And I'm like, well, it kind of is, actually.
It kind of is. We kind of tricked you.
Also, by the way, I'm just going to say this right now. Kazuma's the worst prosecutor this series has ever had.
No, because Van Zeeks is still right there.
No, I mean, like, in terms of being a prosecutor, he sucks at it.
Well, that's because that's not what he's there to do. He's there to uncover the truth in, like, even more of, like, a major way. He does not care one lick about prosecuting anyone.
Kazuma is there so that there's a human body at the prosecutor's bench while you're figuring out the answer.
And I do like that it's a very collaborative effort. It kind of calls to mind, like in Dual Destinies and parts of Spirit of Justice, where like Edgeworth and Wright are like working together, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's always the most satisfying part. You know?
Yeah,
like,
it's when the turnaround happens and Edgeworth is like, you will explain what's going on.
Right, exactly. And, like, it's like, what if we made a whole case like that? What if the whole case was about the prosecutor and the defense actually working together to try and uncover the truth? And, you know, like, because Kazuma has been kind of entrusted with, like, the powers of, you know, like, a prosecuting attorney, like, he can kind of wield those in a way to get answers. He can be like, well, no, I can subpoena you. I can try you for perjury. He can kind of threaten people with like the actual power of the crown behind him to get some answers, and it's like, yeah, that's really fun and interesting. It's a nice change in the dynamic instead of having your Garens or your Von Karmas, you know?
Yeah.
Where instead it's like, no, we're working together against the judge.
Yeah, which is the big thing in 2-5. But which the 2-5 thing is what saved it, because like that's when Strongheart becomes the opponent.
Right.
But I would have really liked it if in 2-4 it's like, boy, Kazuma sure seems different. Then you get into court and Kazuma is just like tearing you apart.
Right.
I thought that would have been more interesting. As much as I do just love that he, like, you know, it's hyped up as like, oh, this is gonna be a really tough challenge for me, you know,
right,
going up against my best friend. Then he just rolls over immediately.
He's instantly like, nah, man, we're on the same team. It's cool. Don't worry about it. I'm only here to find out what happened to my dad. No, it's good.
2 quick things about 2-4 before we move on to the finale, because 2-4 is kind of like how Adventures is just the prelude to Resolve. Sure. 2-4 is pretty much the prelude to 2-5. Mm-hmm. There's a bit in 2-4 where when you're in the prosecutor's office and you investigate the bats, Kazuma notes that he wonders if like prosecutors are required to have like flying creatures with them.
Yay! Simon reference.
It's just like, ooh, Taka. That's right.
It's a bird.
You are not far off the mark.
I miss Simon. That's my favorite prosecutor. But
the other thing is the haunting Bohemian music during, like, before the Dance of Deduction, I thought was coming from something beyond my console, and I was like, this is terrifying.
I know, it was very weird. It was like, very strange.
This is creepypasta adjacent.
It's very, because it does not sound like singing. It sounds like wailing, like the final wails of a dying man.
It sounds like singing under duress, and
like at gunpoint.
It was very creepy. And the sound quality was in that perfect area of like bad sound quality that is like inherently scary.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
You know, like those things where it's like, this is a clip of people laughing, everyone in this clip is dead.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was not good. I'm glad we had the dance of deduction to soften the blow of that.
Second best dance of deduction in the game. It's
great.
It's so funny because for so many reasons, it is funny. Because, like, yes, we have the horrible singing that's like, why is this happening? I don't like it. And then we have the excellent twist, like, in the middle of the dance of deduction. At this point, every single dance of deduction has just been Herlock and Ryunosuke. And then in the middle of it, Susato, like, elbows in to be like, Dad?
Yeah.
And then, in the middle of it, Herlock also gets his ass knocked out.
Yeah.
So Susato and Ryunosuke have to finish it together. Which is amazing.
It's wonderful. I love it.
It's so funny. Like, it's again that whole, like, really funny back and forth that we've built toward from, like, you know, however many cases we've played at this point, where everybody's really familiar with each other, so all the jokes are even funnier, and, you know, at that moment, like, Susato basically, like, elbows her way in, and she gets to do, like, one of the, like, you know, after we've cleared up the misconception that Sholmes has put forward, she's the one who's like, the person under there is actually my father.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's so funny. It's so good. And yeah, then we get the other best twist in the game. There is no Watson. There was never a Watson. I mean, there is a Watson, but it's not who we thought it was.
Yeah, we thought John Wilson was eventually going to be revealed to, like, be an intimately known friend for Herlock, and
sure.
You know, he left this girl in Sholmes' care, right?
Right.
Wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Technically right, because yes, Herlock's partner did, like, leave this girl in his care and then go off to a faraway land. That is true, but It's not her dad.
No, it was someone else.
It's great. Turns out, no. This whole time, your sidekick's dad was Herlock's sidekick. And that's amazing. That's an excellent twist. That's the best possible way to do it.
And it works so well, you know, because obviously the assumption, you know, it's Holmes and Watson, right? Mm-hmm. But also because, like, every case is preempted with the narration from Wilson about like a case that Sholmes, you know, took on.
Right.
And I love those intros because you get just like the ubiquitous classic Sherlock Holmes design, like the silhouette of him.
Sure, yeah.
It's not our Sholmes, you know.
Right, yeah. No, it's kind of very explicitly based off of the old, like the movies from, like, the 1950s, the black and white ones.
The serial series back then, where he's the long gaunt figure. The one that FGO Holmes is very explicitly based off of. Just as, like, a much younger and more handsome man. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so you know you're why wouldn't it be John Wilson?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like,
that's why. And,
like, Wilson himself looks like the quintessential Watson. He's a older man with light hair and a mustache, and that also is a holdover from, like, the old 1950 serials and stuff. Like, he's an older man, light hair and a mustache. It's like, that's Watson, baby.
And the you know, the bowler hat style, and then you're like, and then Mikitoba shows up in England in his suit and tie and bowler hat and mustache.
Yeah.
And then you find out the truth and you're like, oh.
And he's a doctor. You didn't even...
Yeah, and he's a doctor.
This whole time, it's been, like, blatantly in your face. Like, yeah. Go ahead.
I've always said the best possible kind of twist you can write is one where once you know, it's super obvious.
Oh yeah, literally every piece was in front of you from the word go.
You just never had the inclination to put them together.
Right, like, because why would you? I suppose the actual red herring has been here this whole time with, like, you know, the Iris saying that the person who wrote the journals inside the trunk is my father.
Mm-hmm. And you have no reason to not take her word at face value.
Absolutely. Even though I guess you should never believe anything Herlock Sholmes says ever. Why would you?
And because, again, we had a John Wilson who died. Like,
he died. He looks the part. He's a doctor. He went off to, some, land in the East, just like Iris said. It's like, okay, sure, that all makes sense. And then it turns out, no, it was all an incredible misdirection the whole time. And instead, it's that your like I said, your sidekick's dad is Herlock's sidekick. And that's great. That's a perfectly executed little twist. Ideal. That's how you want to do it every single time. Where once it all clicks into place, you just go, oh my god, I could have solved that from the word go. Could have instantly solved it from the word go.
You could have solved it if you even knew it was an option.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great.
Fantastic.
Really, and also just extremely funny dance of seduction. Love it.
Oh yeah, absolutely incredible. I like the revelation that the reason Iris hasn't been saying a thing is because she has a key in her mouth.
Yeah, it's so good. Trying to sneak off with like the autopsy report. We didn't even talk about Maria and her incredible design as well. There's too many characters in this game.
Maria's great. I love her. I love her for not resenting Ryunosuke.
Yeah, it would have been super easy, too, to be like, well, you put Mama in jail, and I hate you, and I'm not going to work with you. And instead, she's like, well, no, my mom lied, and those lies got her put in jail.
My mom killed a guy, and that we're only supposed to cut them up when they're dead.
Right.
So, I'm going to help you guys out.
Yeah, you guys seem cool. You actually wanted to find the truth. The whole purpose of being a coroner is to cut open a body in search of the truth. So
you're like, oh, I didn't expect you to be reasonable.
I've been dealing with a lot of unreasonable people the whole time I've been in England. You don't understand.
Ryunosuke is like, I had to get a note from my friend's dad so that this big Irish guy would talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't say a word to me until I got a note.
A literal doctor's note, basically.
So I really appreciate you being very forthcoming with information.
She's like, yeah, I can give you the coroner's report about Clint Van Zeek's autopsy. Absolutely. And it's just like, oh, you're just gonna give it to us? I mean, it's missing, but you're just gonna give it to us like that? Oh, okay. Thanks. I love you. And your design, and your beautiful design. Perfect. Mwah. Immaculate.
Yeah, excellent.
Adorable goth girl in your Ace Attorney game. Make a third one. Put these characters back in the game, please.
Yes, please. But then we do move on to 2-5.
Yay!
And we get the another, like, well, you can't make Mikatoba, like, you can't make the Judge Jigoku like a character. That's not allowed. You also cannot usurp the judge. The judge is ever present. He cannot be removed from his bench. What are you doing?
The judge isn't just. Not from behind his bench. He's one of the murderers.
You know the bit where, like, it's revealed that, like, in Invader Zim, that Jonan Vasquez eventually revealed that they built the school around Miss Bitters. Yeah. Like, she always existed and they built the school around her.
Yeah.
That's how it is that's how it's supposed to be with the judge.
They built that courtroom around you.
The judge is a fixed point in time. He does not age or exist in like, there's no point in time where the judge does not exist.
Yeah. You're also not supposed to put the judge in like a smoking hot suit and be like, actually the judge is good looking. What? That's my grandpa you're talking about.
You can't do this to us. You cannot. Once you become a judge in the Ace Attorney world, you take an oath to abandon your name and become one with justice itself.
You just become the judge.
So you can't usurp the judge can't leave the bench, and you also can't replace the judge with Strongheart. It's not right.
But no, they put Strongheart in instead. And it's like, oh, so we don't have just one evil judge. We've got two? Oh no, what's next? Cats and dogs living together? Mass pandemonium in the streets? You've upset the natural order.
By the time this case is over, probably...
Maybe a little bit, but it'll be
a little bit of rioting, because like the foundation of the justice system does end up totally collapsing in front of everyone's eyes.
Yeah, no, but it's cool. Literally.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, you see Strongheart on the bench, and you're like, oh, fuck.
Oh, no. Oh, fuck.
Oh, damn it. Oh, crap.
Oh, beans. Oh, this is gonna be hard. Okay.
This is gonna be really, really hard now.
Now I see how it's gonna go. Okay, Ace Attorney, fine.
And you're like, oh, this is gonna be really bad. We're gonna need to be specific. And then it starts dawning on you that Strongheart is involved, and you're just like, oh, man.
Oh, no, this is gonna be really, really hard then.
This is a closed court with no jury. So no one actually can stop Strongheart from, like, shutting anything down.
Yeah, and, like, you've got to be, like, razor precise with all of your evidence, and you've got to just, just dig into everything, and the whole time, he's not, like, a fun, nice judge. He's like a mean, evil judge who's making your life really hard. You know it's serious because they changed the gavel sound.
Yeah! It's this really, really heavy, like, metallic thud. It's great.
Yeah, like, that's how you know. Like, because, like, the gavel sound has been preserved in amber since the first Ace Attorney game came out.
They are still using a Game Boy Advance sound font.
Absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure it might be a slightly different tone, but I'm sure it's based off of the damage taking sound is either directly ripped or is based off of the damage taking from Mega Man X. Like, that's just a recycled sound effect.
It probably is, because, I mean, like, these have always been budget titles, and I'm sure when they were making Ace Attorney, they were just knocking on people's door like, hey, can we borrow some sound effects, please?
Yeah.
A couple of sound effects for your time.
So it's updating the gavel sound is like how a lot of modern Pokemon games still use the same, like, Game Boy cries for those, like, for, Kanto Pokemon, except they updated Pikachu to say his name, and only Pikachu.
Yeah. No, it's obscene. It's heinous. If they ever change any more sound effects, I'm gonna riot.
Yeah. Yeah, like, getting voice acting in 2-3 was amazing. Don't you ever fucking do that again.
Don't ever... I'll take voice acting in cutscenes, like, every now and then, like, voice acting coming up for, like, dramatic moments. Cool. Perfect. Fine. If you ever fully replace the beep boops with voices, no. No, wrong. Absolutely incorrect. I will turn that shit off immediately. I need those beep boops. You don't understand. Yeah. They are vital to the Ace Attorney experience. Mm-hmm. Along with every single menu sound ever, which again, unchanged, preserved in amber. The typewriter sound effect has never been altered, and it's great. All the save effects are the exact same. Picking things in the court record, all the same. Like,
Yep.
never change any of it, please.
Ace Attorney and Kingdom Hearts have the best menu sound effects in any game I've ever played.
So satisfying and clicky. I love them.
Yeah.
Never change them.
But
we have an evil judge.
That all being said, we're very lucky that Herlock Sholmes invented cell phones.
Yeah, hey, about that.
He did just invent like little walkie-talkie dolls.
They are adorable, and
they're great.
I desperately need one. I would probably do violence for an actual felted bunny Herlock.
A hairlock, as they call it.
A hairlock, yes, a hairlock.
Herlock invented Den Den Mushis.
He did, actually. That's true.
That's because it's even the point where like you pull on the ear and like Herlock feels it.
Yeah,
like it's like a little, it's a 1-to-1 like thing.
It's very cute because
it's great
because they're adorable.
And this is where you get to my favorite dance of deduction, the final dance of deduction, because you learned that Mikitoba used to do these, and he's like, Herlock is like, will you join me in one more dance of deduction? He's like, I've been waiting 10 years for this.
Yeah.
And he's the only one that actually dances. He does a little soft shoe. It's great.
Yeah, he has a little tap routine, and it's I'm glad that they saved it for the end. Oh, that was a whine. I'm glad they saved it for the end because it was, because, like, it is, like, the big culmination of, like, everything you've done in the game to this point, obviously. Like, that's what this whole case is, like, it's, like, been building toward all of this. But, that being said, I do wish we had gotten more dance of deductions where, like, there is no Holmes making wrong assumptions and you correcting them. Because I really like this format where it's like Holmes or Sholmes, again, FGO. It's getting all my wires crossed. Where Sholmes, like, leads. It's a dance. Sholmes leads and Mikitoba follows and, does the follow-up. And well, there is no correcting. It's just like, hey, follow my lead. You know where this is going, right?
Right. And I think what this serves as is a very subtle revelation, which is that Sholmes was doing it on purpose.
Oh, the whole time.
Like the truth being revealed that Sholmes was making wild assumptions and like wrong guesses to make sure Ryunosuke was led on to figure out the correct answer. Because he doesn't have 10 years of practice with his dance partner.
Right, yeah, no. He is, like, he's literally, like, making sure that Ryunosuke is paying attention. Like, are you seeing the same things that I'm seeing? And, like, by getting it super wrong, you kind of, like, wind it back and go, like, oh, yeah, he knows what he's doing. And then, when we get to Mikitoba, it's like, oh, yeah, this comes totally naturally. And, it just all flows together seamlessly. And we get, like, all the, we get the great reprise of the Dance of Deduction theme that owns.
Yeah!
Because again, all the music in this game is incredible. So we get like one final reprise of the theme, and it all culminates into like the final reveal of the thing is that like, yeah, Jigoku isn't dead and he's guilty. He did some shit.
He's actually the one who killed Gregson, and it's like suddenly like nothing makes sense anymore.
Right, yeah. Oh,
there's
a judge can commit murder. Okay.
Yeah. It turns your whole world upside down. There was a post talking about like the implications of how like terrifying the photo that they take in the hotel room is now.
Oh, it's disgusting, isn't it?
Well, and that got me thinking, like, I mentioned earlier on, like, the Dollop episode about the right lineage.
Yeah.
That, in the Ace Attorney universe, that photo gets posted on Reddit under those, like, what's an innocent looking photo that's actually horrifying.
Yeah, that's actually horrifying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
And it's like,
oh shit. Oh my god. Gregson was in there.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Gregson.
I know. It's like, it is scary. Like, you can just imagine the thread where it's just like, this innocent photo of like Japanese like law officials coming to Great Britain for a conference.
Right.
There's actually a dead police inspector in that trunk.
Yeah, no.
And like, you can find out more here. It's like there's like a direct article to like Ryunosuke Naruhodo's Wikipedia page.
It's just like, oh, because like it's like one of my favorite things about Ace Attorney, right?
Yeah.
Of this whole thing we talked about with 2-3, where like really early pieces of evidence become like vitally, anything that gets added to the court record gets used at least once, you know?
Yeah.
And it took so long for the picture. Like, the picture did not have any relevance for so long, but it just kept hanging out in your court record. And you're like, what is this? You don't present it to, like, get yourself out of trouble or to get yourself into a crime scene or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what is this for? And, like, the revelation is ghastly. Like, it's just like, oh no. The whole time he was having this, like, really pleasant conversation with Susato and Ryunosuke and Mikotoba in the hotel lobby, there was a literal corpse just inside his trunk. And, like, yeah, it's great. It's horrifying, but it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I love the grand conspiracy at the heart of the Great Ace Attorney about the professor is so juicy. Like, there's so many good ass layers going on with it at that point, because like it, you know, and it kind of still kind of keeps throwing you for a loop right until the end, like the big reveal that, you know, we see, you know, like with every prosecutor in Ace Attorney except for like Garen has daddy issues. It's just an accepted. Kazuma has daddy issues. Edgeworth and Franziska, they've got daddy issues. I guess Simon doesn't have daddy issues. Simon's got his own problems, but he doesn't have daddy issues.
It's a recurring theme.
It's recurring enough. And you know, Van Zeek's, you know, his brother was essentially older than him enough to kind of function as a father. He's like 10, 12 years older than Van Zeek. So, you know, old enough to function as more of a father figure than an older brother. And you know, Van Zeek still respects his older brother enough that the big portrait in his office is of Clint. And there's really, at that point, there hasn't been anything really sinister about Clint. He very much comes across as like Edgeworth's dad, just like a tragic person killed, you know, in a horrible way. So there hasn't really been any implication that he's been involved in something more sinister. And so, like, the build up to it being Clint is amazing. The twists just don't stop. You know, you find out it was Jigoku that killed Gregson, right? And it's like, okay, well, you know, we find out what the four names mean, and they were the exchange of assassinations, right? And like how they're tied into that, and you know, the involvement in these people. You dig more into the actual trial that happened where Genshin was convicted. You know, you find his will, you start piecing these together, and it's like the revelation that, like, oh my god, Van Zeek's condemned someone who was actually innocent. Right, yeah, like he didn't do it.
And
Van Zieks was just so like blinded by his own grief that he just was like, "Wow, I'll sentence anybody to it."
Yeah, and then you're like, but then then it's like the extra layers. But that doesn't make sense because why wouldn't Genshin like defend himself?
Right, like
and you dig a little bit deeper, and you're like, oh shit! Like it just keeps
going.
You find more and more layers, and it's like you get to the point where like Daly was like, I talked to Genshin. He seemed very polite and seemed very forthcoming, and he said, I'm here because I took a life.
Right. A life. Singular. One life. Not a bunch. He never cops to the fact that he killed a lot of people.
Yeah, and so you're like, oh my god, he killed Clint to put a stop to the professor killings.
Right.
No, wait. It goes deeper than that.
No, there's more, actually. When they're, like, so there's two really great, like, kind of moments in all of these moments. But one of my favorites is, and I think I even had to consult you, because Jigoku was saying, I think it was Jigoku, who was saying something about the, who was it? Who came to it wasn't, was it Strongheart himself who said the thing? It was! So it was like trying to pick through like a piece of testimony. No, it was the prison governor. God, there's so many characters after all.
Yeah, I know.
But you're trying to like
Barry Caden, by the way, again, great pun, Barry Caden. I love it.
Oh yeah, okay. I hear it now. Yeah, Barry Caden. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're like trying to find like the inconsistency, and like his whole testimony is super solid. I can't find a single fucking consistency anywhere. And I was texting you, I was like, what does this game want from me? And then like as I asked you, he said something like, he mentions 3 pages.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, that was Strongheart.
Oh, okay. What's Strongheart then?
Yeah, it was Strongheart was trying to wrap everything up, and he's like, we found everything. We found all of the pieces. We found all 3 pages of the testimony.
Yeah.
We're done here.
Right. Oh, you're right, yeah, because you have to pick either like a piece of evidence or like a line. That's it. Because it was such like a huge thing. It's like I need to find like a piece of evidence or a line in somebody's testimony that sounds off, and that's like my one little like last thread to pull on that is my final ray of hope to get this done. And it's the fact that he says that the will had 3 pages, that the will in the court record only has 2.
Yep.
It's like, oh my god.
And and you're like, and that's when it becomes clear that like, oh, there's so much more to this. It's just gonna keep going.
Yeah, it's just this huge, amazing conspiracy, and there's layers to it, and you're trying to like, it's like, okay, so for sure Clint is the professor, but then Van Zieks insists that like Clint can't be the professor because one of the victims was somebody who was a good person who Clint respected deeply. It was like his mentor. Yeah, and he would never, Van Zieks still has like a lot of faith in his brother, even if his brother did kill one person, he still has a lot of faith in him. And it's like, well, okay, well, we have to like puzzle that out too. So why would he do that? And it's like, oh, because it goes even deeper, bitch. And it's the fact that Strongheart was using this serial killer to eliminate his political enemies.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Big, huge shout outs to Herlock being the most prepared motherfucker.
He's so, I'm so annoyed that he's so cool. He's so cool.
Twice where Strongheart's like, I have an out. I can declare recess, and it'll give me some time to think. And Herlock's like, oh, no. I have Mikatoba waiting in the wings. He's good to go whenever.
It's amazing. 2 times in a row.
Oh, I just happened to bring Mr. Cade and Mr. Vigil, and they're good to go whenever. They're right here, ready and waiting. And
yeah, no.
You can just imagine Strongheart is just like fuck.
If I had even 30 minutes, I could send a telegram. I could make some calls. I could find a way to cover this up even more. But no.
He's like, I know exactly which window I can sneak out of. I can be on a boat to Germany in 2 hours. I just need to buy some time. And Herlock's like, no, we're good to go.
Nope, I got it all set up. It's fine. Look, you don't want to delay these proceedings anymore either. Do you, Your Honor?
And he's like, no.
Just smiling, like hear his teeth cracking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. That's amazing.
It's great. Yeah, and so as you just unravel everything, and you're like, yeah, Clint was killing these people because they were horribly corrupt and, defiling the order of Great Britain.
Sure, yeah.
And he agreed to a duel to the death with Genshin so that he could die with some level of honor, and so that, his wife wouldn't be implicated in all this.
Right.
His wife, whose maiden name is Baskerville, it all ties together. There was a dog involved.
Spent 2 whole fucking games going, what's going on with the house of the Baskerville?
And yeah, they get to a point where they're like, Van Zeeks, did your brother have a dog? And he's like, yes.
It's like you never thought to say anything about that. Van Zeeks is like, he's a good boy. He don't bite. Yes, he do. He extremely bite.
Yeah, and it's just like, he's writing his dying wish, and then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, Strongheart made me do it, and Strongheart's like, God damn it!
Motherfucker. Oh, I do though, now that we are here, I do enjoy that, that the Great Ace Attorney does understand that the British aristocracy is truly the most disgusting and depraved and evil force on the face of this planet. There is nothing. You may hate the American Empire, and yeah, that's fair. It is also deeply evil.
That's legit, yeah.
Sure, absolutely. It is.
I can respect it.
You won't hear any complaints from anybody on the Gorge. That's for damn sure. But like in terms of just historical evil and vileness and like crimes against nature and humanity, nothing holds a candle to how wretched the British aristocracy is.
Yup.
It is a horrific institution, and the fact that Great Britain still has nobles in the year of our Lord 2021, cucked nation, 100% cucked nation.
Yep.
That being said, Great Ace Attorney does understand how vile and evil the British aristocracy is, because even after all of that, fucking Strongheart is still able to... Is my neighbor really running something upstairs? Anyways, Strongheart is still able to turn the gallery full of the judiciary nobles to turn it in his favor. And it's like, you do understand. These are heinous and depraved people.
He's like, yeah, but was I wrong though?
I did it all for Queen and country, lads. I did it for the Queen. It's fine. And then
he basically is just like, yeah, but I won though.
Because
you didn't win.
You didn't win because this is still a closed court, and I can just have all this shit stricken from the record, and none of these people are gonna say anything. And fuck you and the horse you rode in on. And
and then we get possibly one of the greatest moments in this fucking series ever.
It's great. It also is utterly improbable. What year is it?
Yeah, so you get a bit where Herlock is just like, hey, I've invented remote holograms. And so, okay, I've read, people have a lot of differing opinions on this, right?
Okay.
Obviously.
Off the bat, step one, it's cool, I don't care.
Yeah, it's cool. Also, it's literally just a way to make it more dramatic and visually interesting, because the minute you see, like, hey, I've invented two-way transceivers, right?
Sure.
And it's like, this is a closed case. The minute you put those things together, you're like, oh, we're gonna get a public engineered confession.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, like,
we're gonna get, you know, Strongheart's gonna be like, yeah, I did it. What are you gonna do about it, motherfucker? And he's like, haha, I've been broadcasting this to someone with this little bunny doll I have. Right? Yeah. It's inevitable. It being like a weird hologram is just a way for Herlock to show up and like dance around the courtroom.
Yeah, and be cool. And just be cool like one last time in the game.
It's literally the exact same thing. It's just now we have like a fun visual aid to go with it.
If it had just been like, actually, the rabbit in, you know, if it had just been like, actually, the rabbit in Mr. Naruhodo's pocket has been broadcasting everything you said to the queen, you know, for the last 6.5 hours, then it's like, okay, well, that would be totally reasonable, you know? Like, leave it all. So, like, the visual element is just there because it looks cool. That's it. Yeah,
because we get bailiffs trying to tackle Herlock while he dances around and he acts like an idiot.
Everyone. Yeah, it owns.
Yeah.
It owns. He gets to teleport around the courtroom and then stand behind the bench with Ryunosuke and Sasato, which also kicks ass.
Which it's fantastic. I love it. And I love an engineered public confession. I love the first 3 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist.
I was about to say the same thing. We all grew up watching Full Metal Alchemist. We all thought the part where Ed makes that priest confess to everybody and makes him look like a total asshole. That's the best part. It owns.
Oh.
Like, literally decades later, it still kicks ass. So, it was perfect. It was literally the only way it was going to work. It was literally the only way that, like, that Strongheart was going to see any kind of justice, as if they, like, did, like, broadcast it.
If someone told Grandma.
If somebody told Vicky.
Vicky, I love it. I love that.
I love Iris calling Queen Victoria, that one, calling her Vicky. Just we've been having.
I was having tea with Vicky.
And she had quite a lot to say about your behavior, Lord Strongheart. It owns. Even though I hate the British aristocracy, I do think that is probably the best possible way you could resolve that. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's delightful. It is just this great moment because you can just imagine Iris and the Queen sitting in like a little garden courtyard thing, enjoying their tea, and Herlock is just like, by the way, you might want to watch this.
There's some very interesting things you might want to hear, ma'am.
Let's see what's on the telly.
It's so good. And it leads to
one of, if not the best breakdown in Ace Attorney history.
It's like they heard us.
It is up there with Roger Ratten's breakdown, which I still think is the greatest in the modern era of Phoenix Wright games. But like, Strongheart's is, because it just keeps going.
I kept expecting the scales to crush him. I
did too.
I just thought, like, oh, we're just gonna kill Strongheart. Like, he's just gonna die from his breakdown because, like,
before that though, you like when you first saw Strongheart back in Adventure, right?
Sure.
You're like, oh my god, he looks like Damon Gant.
I did say that.
What does he do during like the start of his breakdown?
Oh god, how does it start?
He does the Damon Gant clap.
Oh my God!
He does the big dramatic slow clap that builds up and builds up and builds up until it finally reaches its peak.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
You're so right. Oh, yeah. No, he has such, like, intense Gant energy, even from just, like, the whole, like, you know, staring at you silently and making you feel like you're 3 feet tall. But no.
Because it doesn't help that the man himself is probably 8 feet tall. Like, let's be honest.
I think he is canonically the tallest character in the cast.
Yeah. Like, this is a man who has to duck through doorways.
Yeah, no, like, I know that Herlock is 6 foot, which is pretty tall for 1900.
Yeah.
So, like...
He is One Piece character tall.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Like Strongheart is 100% like a One Piece character. Like, the bigger and more important they are in, like, society, the larger their body becomes.
It's that kind of tall where you don't see it, like, at first, but then you see him, like, compared to, like, another person, and you're like, oh my God, what?
Yeah, no shit.
But yeah, like, so he does that, and I love, like, the scales of justice were already leading to guilty.
Yeah.
And the addition of, like, adding 6 more flames that causes the whole thing to just tip too far and break. Oh, it's so good.
And it, like, you know, it's like they're like, yeah, we know there haven't been a lot of really intense breakdowns in these games because, like, you know, but for a handful of people, most of the murderers are sympathetic figures, or they just don't get convicted. So it's, you know, we don't necessarily want to give them, like, big dramatic breakdowns. So they're like, but this man is a monster, and if you're a monster, you get to have a cataclysmic breakdown, the likes of which has never been seen.
If you are a Damon Gant, if you are a Manfred von Karma, if you are a
Garen,
Madden Guard, like, you get to just fall the fuck apart.
You get to get blown up.
Yeah.
Like, the scales of justice almost fall on him. The fire goes everywhere. The whole courtroom is full of it. I'm amazed nobody else got scorched. I like to believe that, like, Susato and Ryunosuke and Cosmo all just, like, hit the deck. Just, like, duck behind the bench. Like, oh, fuck.
Some people in, like, the front rows lost some eyebrows.
Yeah, absolutely. Some aristocrats walked away that day with slightly less facial hair.
they're gonna some of these, like, judges or, like, judiciary officers are gonna go back to their wives and, like, how was the trial? It was interesting.
Oh God. And then, like, you know, it's this huge, dramatic, excellent breakdown. But even more important than, like, the big, loud breakdown is the aftermath, where they just look like a pathetic piece of shit.
Yes.
And Stronghearts is great in that category too.
He's singed, his hair is a mess, like, it's you want, like, a whole new set of sprites in, like, their most dejected state.
Where they've just been, like, utterly broken by the force of your pursuit of truth. And like, you know, you're like, you have brought the hammer of justice on them down for fucking real.
Oh, speaking of that, though, just the constant reiteration of, like, oh, but Judge Strongheart, didn't you say that we were going to find the exact truth? And he's like, I did say that.
Oh, yes, indeed, I have in fact said that, didn't I? Huh.
Yup. We probably should continue the investigation then.
Just looking around desperately for a window to just, like, jump at. It's like, you think if I ran fast enough, do you think I could get past the bailiffs and make it out the front door? I am bigger than them. I could tackle them. Oh, God. It's so good.
And then, you know, and who is the one that gets to bang the gavel finally, but the judge returning?
The real judge.
The one we know, yeah.
The real judge, the one who does, in fact, live in the Old Bailey.
Yes, he was like, I've been watching this whole time, and I want to see, because I have a feeling that, like, while everyone else was doing their, like, you know, their strong heart chant or their testify chant, sure, he was the only one just sitting in silence.
Yeah, just like he says there were others in the. It was just that, like, you know, it's one of those things where like, the loudest voices are the ones that get heard. You know, he says there were others who were, like, you know, kind of quiet as well. But it's like, yeah, no, of course, because he is a true Ace Attorney judge. You know, like a real Ace Attorney judge, like all the ones we've come to know and love.
He cannot be corrupted. He cannot be bribed or turned away from the strength of justice. Exactly.
He lives in the Old Bailey, and by God, he is going to cast judgment from his chair in the Old Bailey.
Yeah.
Because a true Ace Attorney judge is just an arbiter of the truth and judgment.
He is just a ruler. That's it.
Absolutely. It's, you know, 5-star ruler. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's great. It's just a fantastically satisfying unraveling of just an absolutely massive conspiracy. You get, like, a lot of closure for a lot of characters. You know, you get Cosmo's closure. You get, you know, the understanding, like, that's why he was coming. And it's like, you know, he was ultimately, like, you know, it's adorable. He literally just brought Ryunosuke because, like, he just wanted his best friend to come to England with him, man. Like...
Yeah, there was no ulterior motive beyond that. He was just like, I gotta do this thing. Mm-hmm. I would like it if you could come with me.
You are my best friend. I want to, you know, tear up the Queen's London with you, and, you know, we'll have a great time while I'm studying. You know, it'll be like a big long party while I do my best to figure out what happened. And it's like, oh yeah. So everything kind of comes together. All of, you know, everybody gets some kind of a resolution. We get the truth. You know, Genshin is exonerated. Even to a certain degree, like, Clint has a little bit of redemption in there because, you know, his hand was he killed the first one willfully because he actually was corrupt. But, you know, the others he had his hand forced. And so, like, everybody gets kind of some degree of resolution, and except for one thing. Except for one thing.
Except for one little detail that still doesn't make sense.
Teeny, tiny little mystery. One little baby mystery.
Which is...
best possible resolution. And at that point... So, preamp. At that point, like you, I assume, I am riding the high from, like, how tense the last case is.
Yeah!
You know? Because, like, you spend the whole last case just like a bundle of nerves, like, clutching your controller, like, until your hand hurts, because you're just, like, scanning every line as intensely as possible. So, you're in a very heightened state of emotion already. And then it's like, we gotta talk about who Iris's real dad is. And it's like, oh, actually, I don't need to know. Cause Herlock's my real dad. And it, like that, literally, it's like somebody flipped a switch. I went from, oh, how nice to... just like, somebody had fired a gun in my house.
She was like, I don't need to know, but I was like, I do.
I actually do need you. Although at that point, because, like, side note, if a character who's kind of like a tragic dead guy, like, pointedly mentions the fact that he has a wife, you have your answer right there. You're like, oh, okay. Well, he has a wife, and nobles, their favorite thing is to make babies so that they can keep having a noble line. So, like, basically as soon as Clint in his letter was like, yeah, I don't want to disgrace my wife any further, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That actually does make sense.
Now it's starting to come together.
Now it's all coming together. Side note, like Susato and Iris, I was kind of sad they weren't half sisters. It's like, that'd be cute. That'd be cute.
That would have been nice.
That'd be cute.
Instead, Van Zieks is the worst uncle ever.
Yeah, he's not getting invited to any birthday parties, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's... They even have a bit where he's like, thank you, Ryunosuke, you fixed my racism. And it's like, I should not have had to have done that.
Yeah. Although, side note, fantastic joke when they're in the defendant's antechamber after the whole court is over, like the whole case is over.
Yeah.
Where Susato goes, I bet Lord Van Zieks is so happy right now. Hard cut to Van Zieks not smiling one fucking bit. And then she's like, well, I bet Kazuma is happy. Bam! Not happy either. Nobody is smiling. It's great. Perfect timing on that joke. There's a lot of other things about this. As someone pointed out to me, is that like this whole revelation is kind of crazy because when you think about it, you realize that Graydon wasn't part of this. No, he wasn't. He was just the one passing information along.
Yeah, him killing McGilded was just serendipity for Strongheart. He's like, oh, I don't have to take care of that one.
Yeah, that's a loose end all nicely tied up. How wonderful.
Like, that's one of those things where it's like, I thought about it and I was like, God, that's so weird. That's so like, that could have been set up as like a huge red herring, kind of thing. But it's like, no, it doesn't, it wouldn't have, it would have like bloated the case more. But it's like, that's really like what you thought like you were getting resolution on in 1.5 is like now coming back in kind of a really subtle, quiet way.
Right. Yeah, like the resolution that we're getting is what was going on with the list of names that was being transferred between countries. And it was like, oh yeah, this was all part of kind of Strongheart's plan to clean up loose ends. Like, that's literally the whole reason he killed off Wilson and Gregson was exclusively just to tie off loose ends so that he could advance in his career without the possibility of anybody being able to blackmail him, 10 years down the line or whatever, whenever it would become relevant. And it's like, man, if you had just left well enough alone, you probably could have gotten away with it. Like, if you had just... Because, like, Gregson was about to fuck off to Paris, man. Yeah,
he would have not been a problem anymore.
Yeah. If you had just left well enough alone and been like, you know what? You don't need to kill Gregson. We got rid of Wilson. We can just call this one a wash and be done with it. And Gregson would have gone off to Paris with Gina to get away from all the horrible shit he's done, and then Strongheart would have fucking gotten away with it. He would have been Attorney General, and that would have been it. But, like, because he thought he was untouchable, he had to try and clean things up, and it backfired catastrophically.
Yeah, he overstepped, and it cost him everything. And it's so satisfying.
It's what always brings down the last Ace Attorney villain is always pride. It's literally every single time. They just think like, oh yeah, I am untouchable. I can get away with anything because of my status and power.
Because nothing in this world is more satisfying than taking down people who think they are untouchable.
Oh yeah, it's the best. Great feeling.
Yeah.
It's that's like the ultimate feeling of like all Ace Attorney games is you're just chasing like the catharsis. Like we said last episode, you're chasing the catharsis of telling somebody they're wrong and you're right. And it feels great.
And they get super mad about it.
They get super, super mad about it because you're just so right. It owns.
God, this is these are the best Ace Attorney games for sure.
It is. Two is definitely the best Ace Attorney game. Like, just in terms of, especially because of like everything it's doing, because it is so kind of different as an Ace Attorney game, because it messes with the structure in a lot of really interesting ways. But like going forward, I would really like to see. Well, I'd really like to see a third Great Ace Attorney game. But this whole idea of having like every case be in one way or another connected, I would really like for that to come back, because
me too.
Because this building tension as like the story keeps going is so much more satisfying when it all does finally resolve.
It allows you to get more details and more mysteries that you can ultimately wrap up by the end of it, instead of introducing them and resolving them in one case, you know?
Because usually, like, sometimes, I know that Dual Destinies, and to a certain degree, Spirit of Justice, have, like a background thread that is kind of about, like, the case that happened 10 years ago, which is how it always is. It's like a background thread there, but it's not that every case is about that. It's just like, oh, this reminds me of a thing that happened 10 years ago, you know? But instead, like, every single case in both games for Great Ace Attorney, they're all interwoven, and so you get this really, really interesting and complex kind of conspiracy story that ultimately unfolds. And to have it, when it all does resolve, it just feels really good, because you stuck with it through the whole storyline, and you get a lot of closure that way, because you've had these mysteries kind of following you around the whole game. I think like Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, like the whole set of like both games, that even more so than 2 is like the best Ace Attorney game.
Yeah, it's the ultimate package.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interwoven connectivity of every case, even despite 2 existing.
Sure, it's very rough.
It's still just, all of it feels so satisfying, and all the writing is so snappy and clever, and there's so much fun to be had, and it's the best, and I really, really hope that it sells enough to warrant another Ace Attorney game.
Just give me a third Great Ace Attorney. At this point, this is like my favorite cast in an Ace Attorney game. I really like all these characters. I would really like Kazuma to get to be like an actual prosecutor, you know? Not just somebody who's working with you to uncover the truth, but like is actually actively antagonizing you in the courtroom.
I would love that. That is what we need. Yeah. We need Kazuma getting all smug and getting taken down a peg. We need to see that. I
think that'd be great, because they have actual fucking rivalry going on now, because they've both got a sword. Love it. Yeah. I was so glad, because when, Ryunosuke gives Kazuma back Kuruma, I was like, oh man, but he's so cool when he's got the sword.
Yeah, he leans on it, he puts his hand on it when he's like getting all smug.
It just looks so cool. He's doing like the samurai pose, like leaning on his sword. It owns. I was like, oh good, they gave him back the sword in the end. So we gotta have another game where they both have a sword, and somebody uses a sword in a courtroom.
Yeah, we need it. We need that.
We need it. I need more. I just really like this cast. I think they have a lot of really great chemistry. I think all of the character writing is incredibly spot on. I want Gina to come back and actually get to be a real inspector, like the actual, games, like cop detective, not just like Herlock being like the detective, but like the cop detective. I really
let her be the gumshoe.
Yeah, she's the gumshoe or the Emma, That would be awesome. I think that'd be fantastic. Just, just give me one more. Just one more. Please. Oh my god. Do you think we got it all out of our system?
I mean, I'm trying to think, and I feel like I had something else, but I can't even remember. There's just so much. She
calls Herlock Dad.
I know.
I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious when I say I went from like stone-faced to like full-on sobbing in front of my TV.
Yep.
Like it wasn't even like ooh, my eyes are kind of like I'm tearing up a little. You know what I mean?
It was full on.
It was like nothing to like that fast. Never had that happen to me before in a video game. Like I cry at video. I cry at video games all the fucking time, but it's usually like a build up.
Yeah.
No, not this time. It was
nope.
1 minute I was fine. The next minute I was just like sobbing into my couch, like I was having a mental breakdown. It was great. It was catharsis. Yeah. Ran the full gamut of emotions playing this game. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
God, I want another one,
I know.
Or I want to like forget this one and play it again.
Yeah. We still do have Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton. We still do have Ace Attorney Investigations 1 and 2 we can play.
I have heard Ace Attorney Investigations 1 and 2 are extremely good, too. So
yeah.
I actually would like to play those on stream at some point.
Mm-hmm. We'll figure out time to do that. But yeah, I feel like there's still more to go, but like, it just felt so good to play again, It's been 5 years.
It's been so long since we had like an Ace Attorney game, and like getting to get back to it is just like, all right, I really like these games. I forgot.
Yeah, you forget how satisfying it is to like piece everything together and like take someone down and the feeling you get from that.
The problem is there's really nothing like this.
No, I mean, I've heard AI the Somnium Files feels like it, but like I've tried other like mystery games, like I talked up how much I love Obra Dinn, or like stuff like LA Noire even.
Sure, yeah.
Which both of those are really, really good, and I still love Obra Dinn as a fantastic investigation game, but it does not have the same kind of satisfaction that Ace Attorney does.
Sure, absolutely, because there's the character element too, where you really get to know these people, and kind of diving into them and taking one of them apart is, I think, a huge part of it. It's kind of like a puzzle box as a person in a way.
Yeah.
And so you're like literally solving this puzzle in the form of like a human being, and like really getting into their psyche and bringing them down. There's really nothing like it. I hate to say, I've heard that Danganronpa has a lot of the same elements. If I ever get desperate enough, maybe I'll play Danganronpa. Although I highly doubt that. I really do not like the art style of Danganronpa.
No, there's nothing about Danganronpa's character designs that appeal to me, and character design is such a significant reason why I love Ace Attorney. So, no, I have zero interest in playing that. I might check out AI than Somnium Files, though.
And then the other one that is kind of similar, it's more like in the vein of 13 Sentinels, but I've also heard is really good, is 999. Saturn was talking about that one a lot.
Yeah! I've heard those are also really good for, like, kind of getting into the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney vibe. So I might give those a go, too, if I, like, really need something.
I'm really
Yeah, I'm really, really hoping we just get news of, like, hey, Chronicles sold really well. Here's a trailer for Ace Attorney 7.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, if only. Maybe fucking E3. Maybe Capcom will continue its redemption arc and actually make another Ace Attorney game.
Maybe after having absolutely nothing to show this year, next year they will show video games.
Next year they'll be like, we're really sorry we didn't have any video games last year. We've come with a dozen, and one of them is Ace Attorney, and the other is Devil May Cry 6. And the other is Resident Evil 4 remake, but it's still corny and fun.
We need all 3 Leons to appear at E3.
Oh god. Oh. I'm actually really sad this podcast is basically over too.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could think of anything. One more thing. I'm glad Gina learned how to read.
Glad Gina learned how to read. Gina learned how to read, and she got a dog. My girl stays winning. Yeah. You know? I was really looking forward to the idea of Gina in Paris, because, like, she's Gina, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Having to learn how to speak French would have been great, but, you know, I guess she's staying in England. No, my girl stays winning. The whole cast is great. I'm gonna marry Herlock Sholmes. Sorry. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
I do like that basically everybody who plays this game is like, this guy's an idiot, and then, like, I don't know, 3 cases later, they're like, oh, fuck, I think he's my favorite. I'm like, yes.
Oh, I remember, the other thing I wanted to bring up is, I'm really glad they followed up on the loose end of, like, oh yeah, we knew that, Cosmo wasn't dead, so we also made sure that Nicolina got to America.
Yes! Nicolina, I always felt bad for poor Nicolina because it was an accident. Yeah. She just wanted to get away from Russia. And, I think they said she goes to America?
Yeah, like Herlock chartered her a boat to America.
Good for her.
Which is where she wanted to go in the first place, when she was like, yeah, by the way, you didn't kill that guy. We're gonna get you out of here, though.
Good. Awesome. Everybody gets resolution. I would have liked to have seen her one more time, but it's fine.
Yeah. But it's already crammed to the gills with stuff.
I know, there's so many fucking characters in these games.
We did get to see Chicken Stroganoff, though, which is still pretty nice.
Chicken! Oh, man. God. Anything else that you can think of before? I like that at one point, Susato is like, Mr. Sholmes wouldn't lie to us, would he? And I'm like, where have you been? Where have you been?
Do you think Mr. Sholmes would do that? Go on the internet and tell lies?
Have you been paying attention? I'm sorry. Excuse me? That's great.
Fantastic. I'm so sad it's over.
So sad it's over. It's the worst part, isn't it? It's like feeling of emptiness when you're done with like a really great game. You're just like, now what do I do with myself? And the answer is mostly listen to the soundtrack on repeat and cry on my couch. So, you know, once I'm done with that, I can maybe go back to living a normal life. But it's not going to be for a little bit.
All right, I think I am tapped out now.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Yup. Thank you to Broke Free for use of background music. You can follow me on Twitter at thegorgepodcast. You can follow Say at radioinactivity. You can email us at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. You can join our Discord and yell at us about Ace Attorney on that. Please Some people are already like getting through their playthroughs and they're like, holy shit, what's happening in this case? And we're like, haha, we can't say anything.
It's the best feeling in the world. I love watching people speculate.
Join us on that. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/thegorge, where, you know, you can listen to all the other stuff we do. Either we're doing one episode in person. We haven't worked out which ones we're doing in person quite yet.
We're figuring it out.
We're gonna do one of our Patreon episodes, probably take out.
That would be the easiest.
In person. So look forward to that, and probably our roundup as well in person, which will be cool. So yeah, if you do join the Discord, we won't be that active in the next couple days because we're gonna be hanging out
in the real world. world, which will be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we'll be around. Somebody has to moderate that place. Technically, I am in control of the Discord, despite the fact that I don't know how to use Discord very well. But somehow I ended up the admin of the Discord, so my job is to run that and to shill the patron at the beginning of every episode. So.
Yeah. Our job is also to talk about your other podcast.
Hey, that's a good segue that time, my mans. Hey, I'm in another podcast called Big Gay Nerds, where me and a bunch of cool queer friends get together and we play tabletop games. We try out a lot of different systems. Right now, we are playing Beam Saber, a Blades in the Dark hack. Yes, that game I referenced back in the middle of this 3-hour-long podcast, where we play mech pilots in the midst of a complicated global war. I love this system. I love our characters. It's a ton of fun. Everybody has a lot of depth and a lot of like weirdos just kind of trying to interact with each other and get along. So if you think that sounds interesting, head on over to SoundCloud at Big Gay Nerds, and you can find the links to the rest of our social media from there. Thanks.
All right, that'll do it for us.
I mean, it's easy, but we gotta, right? Fuck Strongheart, right?
Yeah, fuck Strongheart. I mean, he is a total monster, but like, it's hard to say that because he does ultimately pay for it.
He does, that's true.
In a big way, but still, like, he does suck.
Okay. No. Fuck Tutu. I mean, really, really fuck Tutu. It's just not good.
It is a confusing stain on this duology that should have been like nearly immaculate.
It's like we came so close to a perfect Ace Attorney game. Like it is that debate over which Tales game is better. Is it Abyss or Berseria? And like go back and forth, because again, I think Spirit of Justice doesn't have a bad case, but I also think overall Great Ace Attorney,
it doesn't peak the way Great Ace Attorney does.
So fuck Tutu. It otherwise brings this game down. Otherwise, it would be a wash. It'd be the easiest, best Ace Attorney game ever. But it's still the best Ace Attorney game ever. But yeah.
Yeah. It's just not as. It's just a little bit closer now.
Right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.